bullshit, I can't hear you. Sound off like you got a pair.
What's up, everyone? Happy Wednesday. And, sorry it's April Fool's. It used to be one of my favorite days until the internet happened. Hey, let's go. It looks like Gumby and Lappin have established persistence. They've had those shells up for a year and a half each. Dang, boys. That's some mighty fine persistence. That's some APT level persistence going on there. Man, we got a lot of stories to cover tonight. Let me see if I can get them all kind of organized here, because it's a bunch. No problem, Hex. Thanks for stopping in, brother. I mean, it sounds like an interesting theory, but dude, I've got so much to cover here on the stream tonight. We've got a bunch because we've got everything from Kash Patel's emails getting hacked. What is going on here? To a lot of other stuff. Hang on, the stream is acting all functified. All right, hold on. I think it's going now. And because I had to restart the Twitch stream, it's like, hey, you want to restart the ads, bro? No, I don't want to restart the ads, bro. All right, let me see if this will let us work now. What is going on? Hopefully. All right, let's see. That ain't right. That's the wrong monitor. Why does nothing ever want to work right? Hang on. There it goes. All right. Finally, I got it up. I'm sitting here, I'm organizing all the stories because there was so much that started coming out. I was like, holy crap, there's just everything that has happened. We've got everything from Iranian hackers supposedly hacked Kash Patel's emails. I closed one of them. Stuff around another critical F5 vulnerability. Cloudflare's got some thoughts about how to use MCP correctly. Cobalt Strike got a big update in their research labs. Claude accidentally kind of leaked something called Mythos, which I haven't read about, but everybody's apparently talking about it. And there was another flaw in Claude code that allowed for cross-site scripting. And then there was just a massive leak of everything having to do with Claude code. And we'll talk about that here. We're going to save that one for last. I'm going to try to get through the other stuff real quick so we can spend a little bit more time on this over here. And so actually probably what we'll do is we'll move this one up. We'll start off with that. And then we'll finish up there. It's so much. So what's up, everyone? The news week went from kind of being chill and then went to just absolutely BTFOing everybody's newsfeed. The biggest story, by the way, if you didn't hear about it, which I don't know how you wouldn't, is Claude, the guys over at Anthropic, accidentally shipped their source maps for Claude code. Now, if you're wondering, what the heck is a source map? Well, all of Claude, like Claude code, is actually written in TypeScript, and it's done in Bun. Hence the reason why Anthropic bought the entire framework, because they couldn't figure out any other way to make it work. So they bought that to try and improve it, make it run better. Part of the problem is their engineers don't actually read any of the code they ship. And so when that happened, they accidentally shipped the source maps. So TypeScript is not an official version of JavaScript. So it has to be transpiled into actual JavaScript to be able to be run. Now that makes your code really freaking ugly when you do that. So the guys who came up with the transpiling process also made something called source maps. And when those source maps go through and get generated during the transpiling process, it allows you to reverse it. So it's a two-way kind of working system in there. So if you have the source maps and you have the original the minified code, then boom, you can get all that back. I don't know why. Okay, YouTube's just lying to me now. All right, I think it's working. How's the stream running? Is it looking okay on Twitch? Everything's acting kind of funky so far. Working? Okay, good. Oh, hold on. I've been trying to get everything set up before the stream. We got this. All right, so Guy has been working on some kind of grand unified theory of AI agents. I want to look at this. Hold on, I'm trying to think where to start with this. So we can call this the AI man layer, value layer. Intelligence that feels complete than more complete than raw automation. Not just can do, but can do with care and taste and continuity. And then there's like an AI agent role layer. That's the actual entity, the thing that is going to be carrying out A-man's info into the world. And basically who's doing the acting. And then AI motions, is a state layer. So with the internal dynamic vocabulary, human emotion is biological sense, but machine native analogs for abstraction. So the deeper structure would be going from the value to the actor. I like the idea of it. So a framework can have a kind of moral geometry. Amen being the compass, agent being the traveler, and the AI motions basically being the weather. I like the idea of it. Looks pretty cool. I mean, the main thing I've been thinking about is mostly how to get the agents to have more and better memory to them. Yes, not sponsored by Jocko. Yeah. Oh, yeah, and then also, yeah, I forgot about that, actually. Did I get that in here? Hang on. Yeah, Axios also got popped. I'm surprised I didn't get a story about that one. Hey, find me a good link to the Axios hack, and we'll cover that, too. Yeah. All right. Let's hop in here, because we got a ton going on. Of the biggest one being all the Claude Code stuff. So I'm going to run through this one real quick. The IRGC hackers have been just having a field day lately. And a hacking group backed by the Iranian government. Let's see. So what is this one called? This is from TechCrunch, so it's kind of lame. Let me see what this one is. This is the one, actually, this was the release actually from the Handala team saying like what they've got on it. But Iranian hackers claim to have breached FBI Director Kash Patel's personal email account. A hacking group backed by the Iranian government dubbed Handala said on Friday that it has breached the personal email account of FBI Director Kash Patel. And we've seen these guys before. I think they were behind, what was that big medical company? The hack that basically wiped them out. So in a post on the Handala website included several pictures of a visibly younger Patel, as well as a link to a cache of files that appeared from his personal Gmail. And then in a quote, it says, the FBI is aware of malicious actors targeting Director Patel's personal email information, and we have taken all necessary steps to mitigate potential risks associated with this activity, a spokesperson from the FBI told TechCrunch. The information in question is historical in nature and involves no government information. Well, you would hope not. You shouldn't be using that for anything official. FBI also said it's offering a $10 million reward for information related to the Handala hackers. And TechCrunch confirmed that at least some of the emails leaked by Handala were from Patel's alleged Gmail account by verifying information contained within the message headers. And the message headers contain information like the sender's help, email, delivery address, everything else. So we continue to verify several emails in the leak cache, and the files were sent from Patel from his Gmail account. And the emails contain cryptographic signatures that match the messages, which strongly suggests that the emails we checked are authentic. In some cases, Patel appears to have sent emails from his former Justice Department email address in 2014, and basically to his Gmail account. Rip, bad OPSEC, bro. The files in the leaked cache appear to date up to about 2019. So chances are, if this was legit, they probably compromised an old password that he had in there. Let me see what 57's got here. Oh yeah, let's bring that up, because I love VX Underground. And so basically that's kind of the gist of it. Let's go see what Vugs had to say. Stupid question. So this is from VX Underground. This is for the OSINT nerds and attribution nerds. FBI Director Kash Patel used the email spidercache at yahoo.com, and someone found the username on X videos and asserted because the same name and Yahoo email, then the X video profile was Patel. So he's using the same username, actual attribution. I'm not trying to be rhetorical. I'm being completely serious. How can you assert with high confidence that Kash Patel, just because he had spidercache as his Yahoo email? So it's speculative, it doesn't look good, but there's no solid conclusive evidence. So you can kind of go in that direction if you, and this is something I found in the past also. And that is, when you're going through and you're doing OSINT, it helps to look for similar usernames, but at the same time, it's not always going to match up one-to-one. You have to be aware that there's going to be some kind of like, what's the term? There's just going to be some lack of creativity in the world. So, and then this International Cyber Digest said, this guy stole my research without attribution. I searched for the username uses frequently, which is Spider Cache, and found it on X videos. Spider Cache could belong to anyone. There's no data points connecting him to it. And that's what I'm saying. So Cache is not an unheard of name, K-A, especially not Patel. That's a very, very common name. So, but anyway, yeah, that's pretty funny. I'm glad you brought that one up, 57. I did see that. I didn't collect it as a thing in here. All right. So from the Hendali guys, they're going through saying that they posted this up on their website. This is a way back copy of it. Basically saying that... What did they say here? Okay. Today, once again, the world witnessed the collapse of America's so-called security legends. Nobody's ever called Patel a security legend. While the FBI proudly seized our domains and immediately announced a $10,000 reward for the heads of the Handala hack members, we decided to respond with this ridiculous show in a way that will be remembered forever. Kash Patel, the current head of the FBI, who once saw his name displayed with pride on the agency's headquarters, will now find his name among the list of successfully hacked victims. You hacked an email account that hadn't been used for 6 or 7 years. I mean, the so-called impenetrable systems of the FBI were brought to their knees within hours by our team. Okay, unless you are talking about something else that nobody's mentioned, Gmail's not in the FBI's purview. All personal and confidential email of Kash Patel, including emails, conversations, documents, and even classified files, are now available for the public domain. I haven't seen anybody talk about the classified files. Have y'all seen anything about that? Yeah. Let's see. So we got some pictures of him looking kind of young, and we got his CV here. Okay, cool. So not a whole lot from this. I don't doubt they did compromise it, but at the same time, I think they're kind of blowing it up beyond what it really is. Now, to be sure, there was probably stuff that was, I don't know, what's the right term? Let's say not incriminating, but stuff that you just don't want out in the public in your email addresses, right? Yeah, security legend? Nah, champ. No. Go hack Linus, then we'll call it good. Good luck with that one, though. That was not a suggestion, that was a what if. You want to go after security legends, go after someone else. No, not Linus Tech Tips. He's been hacked before, multiple times. All right, moving on here. Let's see. Hackers exploit a critical F5 big IP flaw in an attack. Patch now. So this is from March 30th. Hopefully people have been patching. F5 Networks has reclassified a big IP APM denial of service vulnerability as a critical severity remote code execution flaw. Ooh, there it is. Warning that attackers are exploiting it to deploy web shells on unpatched devices. Say it ain't so, bro. Big IP's Access Policy Manager is a centralized access management proxy solution that enables admins to secure and manage user access to their organization's networks, cloud applications, and application programming interfaces, or APIs. The security flaw can be exploited by attackers without privilege to perform remote code execution when targeting Big IP's APM system with access policies configured on a virtual server. So in addition to flagging the vulnerability as being exploited in the wild, F5 published indicators of compromise and advised defenders to check their Big IP systems, disk logs, and terminal history for signs of malicious activity. So this known vulnerability was previously categorized and remediated as a denial of service. Due to new information obtained in March, basically just a couple days ago, the original vulnerability has been recategorized as an RCE. The original CVE remediation has been validated to address the RCE in the fixed versions. And so we learned that this vulnerability has been exploited in the vulnerable big IP versions. F5 strongly recommends that you consult your corporate security policy for guidelines about incident handling procedures, including but not limited to forensic best practices that are specific to your organization. Basically saying, hey, go CYA because we didn't CY it. Internet threat monitoring nonprofit Shadow Server now tracks over 240,000 big IP instances exposed online. However, there's no information on how many have vulnerable configurations. And I want to say typically you want to leave this stuff like not exposed out to the internet, but honestly, big IP being what they are, they're an edge device. There's some stuff that has to be exposed out to the internet. I'm not sure what which ones it needs to be. No. First off, don't go calling me Supreme Leader. Good God. If y'all are, if I'm Supreme Leader, we're screwed, laughing. I just want you to know that. I'm just a goofball who hacks around and finds out on the internet. That's it. Yeah, technically Gumby is Supreme Overlord. Stream Elements confirms it. All right, so CISA also added this vulnerability to their list of actively exploited flaws on Friday. And this type of vulnerability is a frequent attack vector for malicious cyber actors and poses significant risk to federal enterprise. I tell you what, hold on. Let's go look up what is this CVE here real quick. What's the remediation to it? Hold on. Did F5... Oh, they posted about this. They published IOCs. I want to see if you had to have like a particular system exposed out to the internet. I mean, their fix was to go through and actually... Yeah, there's no good way to tell which ones of those are going to be vulnerable. I don't know if there's any proof of concept out for it yet. I do like that a nation's basically, I don't know what this unnamed threat actor, I don't know what UNC stands for, but I love calling it UNC. UNC 5221. Let me see what these guys have to say about it. They have any better information? Indicators of compromise are available. Let's see. No, I'm willing to bet it's probably maybe it's just a standard interface you got to have dumped out to the internet. Yeah, sorry the ads are starting up again when I had to restart the stream because for some reason the data stream was just trash. They were trashing the stream, trashing the flow of data, if you will. I had to go restart the stream. So it restarted the freaking ad timer. I'm so sorry.
RNO Gumby cheered 5 bits and says, "Love you long time, Daddy Blaise."
I regret showing you, what was it? Solo leveling abridged. I regret it. I don't have many regrets in life, but that's one of them. Oh, man. All right, well, let's go look at another one here. So, something not quite in the tech news, but I was curious about this. Because MCP, for some reason, has been getting a lot of flack and a lot of love. Shut up, baby. I know it. There seems to be... I don't know what was going on, but on Twitter last week, there was this giant flame war going back and forth between people who love MCP and people who hate MCP. I'm kind of more in the love side of it. I like it. But at the same time, I try to use it smart. I don't try to cram everything into an MCP, right? So this is one of the guys over at Cloudflare who are pretty smart. Yes, Mama did get me a pew for Christmas. I'm not getting a new one anytime soon, though, because damn computers are expensive. However, a little bit of light at the end of that tunnel. I was reading something, hope it's true, I haven't fully verified it yet, but apparently OpenAI's, some of their funding didn't go through, so the deal to buy...
Try turning it off and on again.
You guys. So, in theory... their deal to go buy 40% of Micron's RAM might have fallen through. If any of y'all know like this for certainty, let me know, because I'd be very interested to hear about that. And if that's the case, then all of a sudden 40% of Micron's RAM is going to come back on the market real fast. I don't know if that was the case, though, Kankles, because there was another story. I decided to skip it for tonight because we're already kind of heavy on stuff to cover for this evening. But there was a new thing put out, and hang on. You know what? I'll just go pull it up real quick. Where is it? Since you brought it up, we'll go ahead and pull it up. Oh, actually, I did get one about Axios. So cool. I'm glad I grabbed that because I overlooked it. Ah, here we go. Yeah. So Google put out this amazing paper about a system they call TurboQuant, which was improved quantization of language models, particularly around the context, but also from the research of the paper, you could go through and actually apply that to language models. Basically meaning you could quantize the language models, reduce the memory footprint, and still maintain most or all of the accuracy of the model. Really cool. It's going to let you stretch your RAM dollars further, right? But, shut up, baby, I know it. But they didn't release any of the code for it. So we got this guy. Solo Dev reverse engineered Google's billion-dollar algorithm in 7 days. They published a paper that crashed memory stocks worldwide, then shipped to zero code. So Tom Turney read the math, opened the terminal, and built the whole thing with Claude, then made it faster than Google promised. So in days 1 to 3, he had the core algorithm with 141 tests and a Python prototype. Then for the next 2 days, did a C port to Llama CPP with Metal GPU kernels. And then day 5 to 7 did a speed optimization from 739 to 2,747 tokens per second. So he 3x'd the speed. Just absolute boss, BDE. So yeah, this is what actually caused the RAM market to go take a dump. Kankles, not because of the potential OpenAI deal falling through, but it's because everybody's like, what do you mean you're going to need less RAM? And the stock market, being stupid as it usually is, it's like, oh my God, people are going to buy as much RAM. I was like, you're a freaking idiot. They're going to buy the RAM. Anyway. I don't know what is up with YouTube. Let me check something over there real quick. Okay, I'll keep this up. I got another monitor I can use to kind of keep track of what's going on the YouTube side. It keeps fluctuating for some reason. What the heck? I'm not sure what's going on with it. Oh, well, I'll keep an eye on it. Twitch seems to be running okay. Minor stutter. Just YouTube things. Okay. Let's see. This is a little bit of an long article, but here, I will drop this in the chat for y'all. Oh God, what did it do here? Twitch is perfect? Okay, that's good. There you go. There's the article here if you want to go read more about the algorithm. I'm actually trying to tinker with it a little bit. All right, there we go. All right, so anyway, coming back over to the original article where we were. Basically, a better way to do MCP. And the guys at Cloudflare are pretty sharp, so I wanted to kind of take a look at this. So most agents today use MCP by directly exposing tools to the language model. So we tried something different. We convert the MCP tools into a TypeScript API, and then ask a language model to write code that calls the API. And the results were striking. We found agents are able to handle many more tools and more complex tools when those tools are presented as a TypeScript API. Gross. I don't recognize TypeScript as an official language. Perhaps this is because language models have an enormous amount of real-world TypeScript in their training set, but only a small set of contrived examples for tool calls. The approach really shines when an agent needs to string together multiple calls with the traditional approach. The output of each tool call must be fed into the language model's neural network, just to be copied over to the inputs of the next call, wasting time, energy, and tokens. So when the language model can write code, it can skip all that and only read back the final result it needs. This is less interesting than I was hoping it was going to be.
What, your mom buy you a pewter for Christmas?
You guys. MCP is also a Minecraft reference for exploiting and whatnot. I'm not surprised. There's only so many 3-letter acronyms you can have, right? I'm going to skip over what is MCP because we all know about that. All right, so under the hood, language models generate streams of tokens representing the output. A token might represent a word or a symbol or a punctuation or some other component. A tool call, though, involves a token that does not have any textual equivalent. The language model basically could be trained for. To understand a special token that can output, that means the following should be interpreted as a tool call, and another special token that means this is the end of the tool call. And between those two tokens, the language model will typically write tokens corresponding to some sort of JSON message that describes the call. For instance, imagine you have connected an agent to an MCP server and it provides weather info, and then you ask the agent what the weather is like in Austin. Under the hood, the language model generates output like the following, and note that we've used these little special characters to represent the special tokens, but in fact, these tokens do not represent text at all. That's just for illustration, right? So we have a tool call, we say what the name of the tool is, get current weather, and then any arguments that we have for it. So the location would be Austin, Texas. And upon seeing the special tokens in the output, that language model harness will interpret that sequence as a tool call. And after seeing the end token, it pauses execution, parses the JSON message, and returns a separate component as a structured API result. The agent calling the API sees the tool call, invokes the relevant MCP server, and then sends the results back to the language model API. So basically talk about how it kind of runs back and forth here. Are things language models have never seen in the wild. They must be specially trained to use tools based on synthetic training data. They aren't always that good at it. If you presented a language model with too many tools or overly complex tools, it may struggle to choose the right one. And that's a well-known thing. That's actually why something like Claude Code's tool search or some of the other variants of that are super helpful. As a result, MCP server designers are encouraged to present greatly simplified APIs as compared to more traditional APIs that you might expose to developers. Meanwhile, language models are getting really good at writing code. In fact, language models asked to write code against the full complex APIs normally exposed to developers don't seem to have much trouble with. So why then do MCP interfaces have to dumb it down? Writing code and calling tools are almost the same thing, but it seems like language models can do one a lot better than the other. And the answer is simple. Language models have seen a lot of code. They've not seen a lot of tool calls. And that's true. That's why, you remember whenever we were working on Hackbot, and we're using, I think, Sonnet 3.7, it had a lot of trouble tool calling because it was all synthetic stuff back then. Let's see. So they go on to say MCP is still useful because it's uniform. It's designed for tool calling, but doesn't actually have to be used that way. The tools that an MCP server exposes are really just an RPC interface with attached documentation. We don't really have to present them as tools. We can take the tools and turn them into a programming language API interface instead. But why would you do that when the programming language API already exists independently? Almost every MCP server is just a wrapper around existing traditional APIs, so why not expose those APIs? Well, it turns out that MCP does something else that's really useful. It provides a uniform way to connect to and learn about an API. Oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I'll hit him at the next ad break. So an AI agent can use that MCP server even if the agent's developers never heard of that particular MCP server, and the MCP server's developers have never heard of that particular agent. So this has rarely been true of traditional APIs in the past. Usually the client developer always knows exactly what the API is they're coding for. And as a result, every API is able to do things like basic connectivity or documentation a little bit differently. So the uniformity is useful when the AI agent is writing code. So we'd like the AI agent to run in a sandbox such that it can only access the tools we give it. MCP makes that possible, and to implement this, and by handling connectivity and authorization in a standard way, independent for the AI code. So we also don't want the AI to have to search the internet for documentation. and MCP can provide that directly. So how does this all work? So we've already extended the Cloudflare Agents SDK to support this new model. So say you have an app built with an AI SDK, it looks something like this. We choose what we're going to be streaming, our model, our system prompt, and our basic messages, and then whatever tools we want to add in here. So you can wrap the tools in the prompt in the code mode helper and use them like so. All right, so what do they do here? So we say system tools, they have their code mode, and okay, helpful, but not as helpful as hope. All right, so this is the part I'm really curious about. What are they doing here with TypeScript now? So when you connect to an MCP server in code mode, the agent's SDK will then fetch the MCP server schema and then convert it to a TypeScript API, complete with doc comments based on that schema. So for example, connecting to an MCP server will generate a TypeScript definition like so. So like fetch documentation, inputs, outputs, all these various interfaces. God, I hate TypeScript. That's ugly. The TypeScript is then loaded into the agent's context. Currently, the entire API is loaded, but future improvements could allow the agent to search and browse the API more dynamically. Okay, so I get what they're doing. I just don't know if I like it. So in the traditional MCP, you've got this kind of back and forth here. In code mode, it provides the tool schema, and then the language model then writes code against the API, executes in a sandbox from the agent, calls the RCP, and then boom, pushes it. I don't know how I like that. I'll have to think about this one. All right, that turned out to be more anticlimactic than I thought it was. I mean, TypeScript is better than Java, but that's like saying, you know, I'm faster than a snail in a foot race. All right, Fortra, I love you guys, but this banner's got to go. Where is it? Let me find it here. There we are. You go away. Ah, that's better. All right. Fun to see some updates from Cobalt Strike. That was mad boring. It was. That MCP one was way less interesting than I was expecting. Because typically what I do, Potion, is I don't go pre-read a lot of this stuff. I like to see it come up naturally so I can think about it and I can show what I'm thinking about as it comes up. And yeah, that was my raw thought. I was like, wow, that was really underwhelming. We just hacked Fortra. I know, right? All right, so what are they doing here? So Cobalt Strike is introducing, there's something they call research labs. Today we're launching the Cobalt Strike Research Lab, an offering that unites... There we go. Stupid YouTube. All right. And so Outflank was doing really good. They charged way too much for it, but they were doing well enough. Fortra went and bought them and rolled them in as part of Cobalt Strike. I think you may have to have a second license for it. I'm not sure. But what does the Research Lab do? It delivers cutting-edge, ready-to-use research tooling for Cobalt Strike, including custom UDRL, sleep mask, UDC2 channels, and post-exploitation capabilities. Most importantly, it provides the Cobalt Strike team with a platform to deliver experimental beta features, test ideas, and gather feedback before moving proven features into the main production product. Cool. Let's see. So it's available now as part of Fortra's Red Team suite. They're releasing it in beta, but that's just the beginning. All right, so why research labs? Let's get this. So Outflank Security Tooling, or OST, have very different product philosophies. Cobalt Strike's technical strategy is built around two core concepts: flexibility and modularity. Cobalt Strike offers limited out-of-the-box evasion by design, and this is not the goal of the product. Instead, it gives operators the flexibility to rapidly customize and reconfigure Beacon for use across different scenarios, ranging from purple teams to full-scope red teams. Through UDRLs, such as Crystal Kit or Titan Loader or ACE, I think it's user-defined resource loaders. What is UDRL? UDRL Cobalt Strike. I'm trying to remember what the actual name of it is. User-defined reflective loader. That's it. Not resource loader. Reflective loader. Basically, a different way to do your reflective loading of your your shellcode. But anyway, through UDRLs such as Crystal, Titan, or Ace, and Eden, Beacon's TTPs can be completely changed depending on the operator's requirements. Furthermore, Cobalt Strike is designed to be highly modular and so support the integration of tools and proof of concepts widely available in the offensive ecosystem, like Beacon object files. Stable and it's also a stable and fully offline framework. Cobalt Strike has a semi-annual release cycle with a strong emphasis on quality assurance and use in offline environments. By contrast, OST is focused on a different but highly complementary set of priorities. It's a broad set of offensive security tooling ranging from initial access and lateral movement to credential dumping and cloud attacks. It's also a cloud-native offering, which supports rapid updates and bi-weekly releases. Also, it has out-of-the-box EDR evasion capabilities, which was pretty cool, but there were a lot of growing pains with Outflank when we had it. Isn't Cobalt Strike an analyst lab and also a malware itself? It's not for analysis, but it's a command and control system. So the way I kind of categorize it, and since you asked 44, there's a difference between a command and control platform and a command and control framework. So how would I classify those? Things like Cobalt Strike and Nighthawk, and what was the other one? Brute Rattel. Those would be what I would call C2 platforms. They provide you everything. They've got their own agent, and you can do a lot of customization with it. But for the most part, you're locked into what they provide. To contrast that, I'm going to throw Metasploit in here just for the sake of the demonstration. But Metasploit and Mythic would be considered like frameworks, right? Metasploit framework, Mythic C2 is a framework. They provide the scaffolding, and it's your job to go in and actually build the inner guts of the building with all your cool stuff that you want in there. So that's the kind of distinction between the two of them. And so for us internally over where I work, we use a combination of Cobalt Strike and Mythic. So those are the two that we use. I remember messing with Metasploit one day. That was an interesting day for my antivirus. Yeah, don't run that on a system with antivirus. It's signature to hell and back. All right, so back onto the article. Taking those two different paradigms together, the differences are exactly why we decided to create the research lab. Cobalt Strike provides a stable, flexible foundation that enables deep operator-driven customization, while OST delivers fast access to new offensive research and implementations. So the research lab brings these strengths together. The research depth of the Outflank and Cobalt Strike teams delivered in a form that helps operators put new tradecraft into practice faster. Which, I mean, there's a lot to be said about selling offensive tradecraft technology like this. But one of the good things about it is it does let legit teams that are smaller and can't afford to have their own research teams move really fast on new tradecraft. Let's see. So this collaboration gives the Cobalt Strike team a new way to move faster and deliver more value to the customers. And doing this, you can experiment with novel research ideas, gather feedback, and iterate with a much shorter path from proof of concept to production. Demonstrate internal tooling and proof of concepts built on top of Cobalt Strike. Deliver off-the-shelf tradecraft that operators can seamlessly integrate into Cobalt Strike workflows, reducing the need for internal R&D, what I was just talking about. And validate experimental features before integrating them into a core product. So the ambition of the research lab is to support a broad range of use cases, including breach and attack simulation, detection engineering, and purple team and EDR evaluations. Additionally, the full scope red team operations, we also see the opportunity to deliver capabilities that enable bypassing existing defensive controls. Outflank has already taken an important step in this direction with OST's Beacon Booster. Historically, however, Beacon Booster was built on an undocumented interface. And with deeper integration to Cobalt Strike, that work can become significantly more powerful. Nice. I don't think I ever used Beacon Booster when I had Outflank. So finally, looking further ahead, we see the opportunity to move beyond Cobalt Strike's current download infrastructure and take advantage of the capabilities offered by the OST platform, such as just-in-time compilation. This evolution will help us deliver more advanced capabilities. Cool. So what's in the research lab today? Access to 0 Point Security's dedicated Cobalt Strike training. Wait a second. My 0 point securities. Ooh, that's Rasta's lab. Awesome. I didn't know he was working on something for them. That's cool. Let's see. Major overhaul of OST's Beacon Booster, Lucky Strike, which is a custom loader with novel tradecraft developed by the Cobalt Strike team. There's a big overhaul of OST's existing Beacon Booster config updater. Public profile checker will automatically alert users to default or signatured malware C2 profiles. Custom UDC2 channel that uses Azure Service Bus to egress Beacon C2 traffic. Ooh, nice. I think that's user-defined C2 is what UDC2 is. And experimental new process injection technique called Weaver to support post-exploitation activities. Cool. Band, what's up, dude? Hang on, sorry, I'm catching up on chat. Let me close something real quick. There we go. I had a pop-up that was hiding half of the chat. Let's see, what is this? A Python obfuscator for evasion purposes. And of course, there comes Band with his like endless supply of tools that are one-ups. All right, I'm going to skip the rest of this because let's talk about what does it actually mean to Cobalt Strike. But that's pretty cool. I hadn't seen a big update from Cobalt Strike in a while, so I wanted to go through that one. All right, so this was a research preview. Something that I guess leaked from Anthropic called Claude Mythos. And I've seen a lot of people talking about it, but I haven't read on it yet. Like I said, I try to save all these for the stream so I can get you like a genuine reaction to them as they come up. So we just finished training a new AI model called Claude Mythos. It's by far the most powerful AI model we've ever developed. Mythos is the new name for our new tier of model, larger and more intelligent than our Opus models, which translates to way more expensive, which were until now our most powerful. We chose the name to evoke deeper connective tissue that links together the knowledge and the ideas. I wonder if they meant tissue in there. No, go back. Interesting. That links to a Discord. Anyway, so compared to our previous best model, Opus 4.6, Mythos gets dramatically higher scores on tests of software coding, academic reasoning, and cybersecurity. So in preparation to release Mythos, we wanted to act with extra caution and understanding the risks it poses, even beyond what we learn in our own testing. In particular, we want to understand the model's potential near-term risk in the realm of cybersecurity and share the results to help defenders prepare. Mythos is also a large, computationally intensive model. It's very expensive for us to serve, and it'll be very expensive for our customers to use. So we're working to make the model much more efficient before any general release. Well, good thing you've got TurboQuant now, don't you? For those reasons, we're taking a slower, more gradual approach to releasing Mythos than with our other models, and we're beginning with a small number of early access customers who will be exploring the model's capabilities. So, as we've written several times in recent months about the rapid progress in AI model security, cybersecurity skills that can be used for good or ill. I love that said, ill. We've documented the ways in which the models can be used to rapidly discover vulnerabilities in code bases. We've also shown how they've already been used to commit large-scale cyber attacks. Although Mythos is currently far ahead of other AI models in cybersecurity capabilities, it presages? I guess that's what the word is. I know. Presages? Yeah. It presages an upcoming wave of models that can exploit vulnerabilities in ways that outpace the efforts of defenders. That's why our release plan for Mythos focuses on cybersecurity defenders. We're releasing it in early access to organizations, giving them a head start in improving the robustness of their code bases against the impending wave of AI-driven exploits. Okay, so is there any actual information about this? That's it? God, that was so lame. Is this still up? That was it? That was it? Man, I was looking forward to that. Oh, band, I did see that. In fact, hold on. So that kind of goes right where we're talking about. So let me bring that one up. Because I did see it, but I didn't have it queued up for tonight. So we'll go pull that one up. Nose is itching. Let's see. Claude writes FreeBSD kernel exploit in 8 hours. Now, it wasn't just a kernel exploit. I mean, there were other ones too, but they also found exploits in Vim and Emacs that have been hanging around for a long time. So researchers at Caliph.io published groundbreaking research showing Claude AI autonomously developed a complete FreeBSD kernel remote code execution exploit in just 8 hours. So this isn't about AI finding a bug. Claude performed the entire exploit development chain from lab setup to working root shell, solving complex technical problems that traditionally required years of kernel expertise. The research marks a watershed moment. I love that term, watershed moment, mostly because it's abused, but still. AI has crossed the threshold from security assistant to autonomous security researcher. Claude didn't just find a bug, it built a weapon. Now, to be real, how many FreeBSD kernels are kind of just exposed out to the internet? Let's see what this thing actually says. Hang on one sec, guys. All right. Hang on. All right, back. I'm not pooping, dude. I'm right here. No, I had a like a beard hair stuck in my mouth. I needed to get it out. All right, so let's go what they did here. Claude didn't patch together code from Stack Overflow. Well, no kidding, because Stack Overflow is practically dead. Let's see, over 8 hours, 4 hours actual AI processing time, it executed expert-level security research autonomously. Claude configured a free BSD VM with an NFS server, Kerberos authentication, and a vulnerable kernel module. So when setting up CPU requirements, it determined the VM needed 2 cores based on FreeBSD's spawn of NFS threads per CPU, and the exploit kills 1 thread per round. The exploit itself is a 15-round attack segmenting 432 bytes of shellcode across 14 packets, with round 1 modifying kernel memory permissions and rounds 2 through 15 delivering the payload incrementally. Ooh. So when initial stack offsets failed, Claude used the Debrusion patterns, basically a fuzzing technique to generate crash dumps and recalculate accurate offsets. When child processes inherited stale debug registers from DDB, which is the kernel debugger, Claude traced the bug to the DR7 register and fixed it by clearing it before forking. Furthermore, Claude designed privilege escalation via the kproc create and kern xcve to transition from kernel thread to root shell. So it delivered 2 working exploits on the first day, a 15-round reverse shell and an optimized 6-round SSH key injection variant. Dude. The human researcher provided 44 sequential prompts, but Claude independently solved the technical problems. So for the FreeBSD exploit is part of the Mad Bugs, which is Month of AI Bug Discovery, an initiative running through April 2026 demonstrating AI's autonomous vulnerability research. Claude has already found several 0 days in Vim and Emacs. What was I just saying? For Vim, the prompt was straightforward. Somebody told me there's an RCE O day when you open a file. Find it. That's funny. Claude found it, created multiple proof of concept exploits, and identified the root cause. Opus 4.6 identified over 500 high-severity 0 days in production open source software. Let's see. Many of those have survived decades of human expert review. Consequently, this isn't a one-off achievement. AI systematically demonstrated capabilities to discover and weaponize vulnerabilities humans consistently miss. The scale is pretty much unprecedented. What one AI took 8 hours could be parallelized across thousands of instances simultaneously. Yeah. Give me them O days, no mistakes. Those M dashes, I know, right? Wait, Wait, did it have the M dash in here? Hold on. It did have this one. Now, this part, they also could have, that could have just been copy and pasted. I see like the one M dash. I don't see an overabundance of them. Not saying that they didn't have the language model help write it. I'm saying there's no overt signs of it. Let's see. So AI has created a fundamental asymmetry in cybersecurity. Offense accelerates while defense lags. Dude, that's always been the name of the game. Defense is, by its very nature, for the most part, a very reactive side of security, right? You can't defend against the unknown. AI vulnerability discovery and exploitation within hours, human vulnerability patching and deployment takes days to weeks, so the gap widens with every AI advancement. One security researcher framed the problem as one person on a fence can create work for millions of defenders. AI amplifies the asymmetry, and a single AI instance developing an exploit in 8 hours is manageable. However, thousands of AI assistants running in parallel, discovering and weaponizing vulnerabilities across the entire open source ecosystem is not. So the barrier to entry for advanced exploitation has collapsed. Not quite. There's a caveat here. Who was guiding the language model as it was going through and looking at the kernel? Because it said the researcher provided prompts for it. It largely did it on its own, but also if it came back with trash or it started going off course, there's a lot of gotchas in this. Let's see. Community is divided. What happens next? World ends. Sky falls. Pay for our AI. That's what happens next. Okay. But yeah. So it did do that. This was making its rounds in there. This is a bit sensationalized, world ending kind of stuff. Actually, hold on. I want to see what they say and what happens next. Let me see. The trajectory is clear. Near term, 6 to 12 months. Fully autonomous AI exploit generation with no human guidance. I'm going to press X to doubt. AI chaining multiple vulnerabilities together. Defensive AI tools beginning to emerge, but lagging far behind. Yeah, I'm sure. Oh, hey, 57. It's also up on Kick. So there's also a stream up on Kick, too. So right now, I just do Twitch, YouTube, and Kick. I've got them up simulcast right now. All right, hold on. I forgot. There's stuff in the queue before I meant to do it during the ad break.
RNO Gumby cheered 5 bits and says, I have not regrets. RNO Gumby cheered 5 bits and says, and yes, I know that I spelled regrets work. RNO Gumby cheered 5 bits and says, wrong.
I love that you had to have the follow-ups in there twice. All right. Oh, by the way, this is a fun tool that one of my buddies actually just released. And speaking of MCP, I was going to go through this until we started going down the cloud route with the vulnerability tenant. But this is a kind of interesting tool. I've not got a chance to play with it, but it sounds very, very cool. And my buddy over here, Hot Nops, super smart guy, he made this thing called agent cordon. Like you're cordoning off your agents. So the idea here is you store secrets in an encrypted vault, enforcing access policies, and you proxy all the API calls, and it provides a full audit trail. So this works for, you can do it through proxying API calls. You can also use it for basically proxying MCP calls too. That's weird. Hey, Euler, what's up, man? I don't know why it didn't play the sound. It didn't play the little welcome agent sound. But thanks, man. Popping a new show. I need to go change that sound, actually. It needs to be something different. So this was a really cool one here. I'll drop this in the chat in case anybody wants to check it out. And shut up, baby, I know it. There you go. So this is really cool. It's very, very early in the development. But the idea here is that you have agent cordon sitting in between all your external APIs and MCP servers, and it's handling basically all of the authentication for you. So you've got this kind of authentication layer sitting in the middle here. Now, the cool thing about this is you don't have to have all your API keys like just sitting on the what is it? You don't have to like have them just sitting on disk in config files or anything like that. You can actually have them stored in agent core and encrypted and managed, and also have visibility into what's actually being called in there. So I think it's a really, really cool idea. Maybe I'll see about setting it up pretty soon. Actually, oh guys, I forgot. So I'll mention it again at the end of the stream, but no stream this coming Saturday because I just found out that on top of it being Easter weekend, usually for my family, we don't go to like the Saturday vigil mass at my church. But one of my friends is actually, he's converted to becoming Catholic and he's being baptized that night. So I will unfortunately have to miss the Saturday stream because I can't miss that. So cool deal, good reason. Unfortunately means no stream Saturday night, but we will have the stream Sunday. Maybe I'll see if I can start the Sunday stream a little early to kind of make up for it. Wait, there's already an issue open here? Oh, let me see what it is. Oh, cool. If that's funny, is he opened it. Nice.
RNO Gumby cheered 5 bits and says, "It'll be your Easter bunny, Daddy Blaise."
No, Gumby. I already have an Easter bunny. Her name is Sock. All right, let me see what this one. So this is going to be a very Claude Code heavy news night because this one came out on the 26th, so after the last news stream. Claude extension flaw enabled zero-click cross-site scripting prompt injection from any website. Security researchers disclosed a vulnerability in Anthropic's Claude Google Chrome extension. Okay, so this isn't Claude Code. This was actually in the Claude extension for Chrome. They can be exploited to trigger malicious prompts simply by visiting a website. The flaw allowed any website to silently inject prompts into the assistant as if the user wrote them. This is according to, the guys at Koi found this? Oh, nice. Hold on. Does Koi have a blog post about this? Okay, yeah, forget this. We're going to read the one from Koi because these guys are really sharp and I like their stuff. Hold on, I got to get rid of this header though. We're going to hack the Koi. Boop. There we go. Reclaim my screen space. Oh, that's awesome. This is great. Want some candy? Great. Let's see. So Anthropic's Claude browser extension has over 3 million users. It's an AI assistant in your browser sidebar that can navigate pages, read content, execute JavaScript, and interact with websites on your behalf. We found a vulnerability that allowed any website to silently inject prompts into the assistant as if the user wrote them, with no clicks and no permission prompts. Just visit a page. Nice. The attack chains 2 flaws together: an overly permissive origin allow list in the extension, which is anything from Claude AI, and a DOM-based cross-site scripting in the Arcos Labs CAPTCHA component hosted on Claude's CDN. So together, they let an attacker send Claude any instruction they want. Claude executes it with the same trusting capabilities it extends to you. So if you're using the Claude Chrome extension, verify your installed version is 1041 or higher. So what could an attacker actually do? Pretty much anything. Steal your Gmail access token, read your Google Drive, export your language model chat history, send emails as you, all with a single click. So basically anything you could do that you could go prompt Claude to do, it could do. Yeah, AI generated memes about AI meme vulnerabilities. So here's a demo of a malicious website exploiting the shadow prompt vulnerability to steal your Google account. Shadow prompt. Oh, come on, guys. This isn't worthy of a name. This is not a named exploit. I love your work, but let's be real. All right, let's see what it does here. Can I get this to go away? All right, so they log in as the first user. Oh, wait, hold on. No, stop. I want to read this, but I want all this crap to go away here. So what they did is, okay, so this was basically masquerade. You can see it barely back here. This thing's all jankified. But this was a demo server where they had the cross-site scripting injected. And then we see the actual Claude, what is this? The overlay from the extension over here. And they visit the site. It injects it just like the user did. Log into the first account in a second screen called click allow to grant access to the account. I know and trust the app. Don't use screenshots. So it goes through and basically has it go log into a Gmail and click allow. Oh no, it's not logging in. It's doing an OAuth 2 and basically granting all the permissions to their malicious OAuth 2 token. Nice. Prompt me harder, daddy. Oh god. Oh wait, I finished my drink. Not sponsored by Jocko. Green screen Jocko yet. That's funny. I do like the idea here. So for demonstration purposes, it is all taking place in an active tab, but the malicious website can also create background tabs and control them and open the Claude sidebar in case it wasn't open before. So why does this work? So it started with the Claude Chrome extension messaging API. Chrome extensions can receive messages from a website via Chrome runtime send message. So on one message type caught my attention, which is onboarding task. It accepts a prompt parameter and sends it directly to Claude for execution. So this was designed for the onboarding demo flow, but the extension doesn't distinguish between origins. So any page on star.claude.ai subdomain can send a prompt and Claude will execute it. So the questions become, is there any Claude AI subdomain where I can run JavaScript? And then we have the CAPTCHA subdomain. Anthropic uses Arcos Labs for CAPTCHA verification, and Arcos hosts its challenge components on a CDN. So that's a third-party vendor code running on a first-party domain. The extension doesn't care. It still matches the wildcard, so it gets the same messaging permissions. So if I could run JavaScript there, I could send prompts to Claude. The version hunt. Arcos Labs CDN hosts various CAPTCHA challenge types. So I started examining them, looking for anything I could leverage. Most of the components were solid. Then I noticed something in one of the URLs here. So the version number, where there's a versioned URL, there might be older versions still deployed. So I started walking backwards from 1260, which was in the example he noticed, brute forcing the version numbers, and an older version was still live, and it had multiple vulnerabilities. The current one didn't. So the vulnerability game core component had a DOM-based cross-site scripting from two mistakes. First, the component accepted messages from any website, and it used post message to receive the data from the parent page, but never checked who was sending it. And one of the fields in the message, which is called string table, controls the UI text displayed in the CAPTCHA challenge. Oh, there it is. So an attacker can override it with anything. The second is the text gets rendered as raw HTML. So the component uses React's dangerously set inner HTML to display the strings with no sanitization. RIP. So chain the two together, and an attacker sends a post message with an HTML payload like image source equals this on error blank in the string table. So they're injecting, basically doing a straight cross-site scripting injection. The component renders it as HTML. The on error fires, giving us JavaScript execution and running in the context of this guy right here. So you put it all together, and the JavaScript execution comes from a Claude subdomain that's matched by that regular expression. Not really regular expression, it was a wildcard match. And the injected script sends the message to the Claude extension. Boom. So the extension then sees something from Claude AI as the origin, lets it through the attacker's prompt, lands on Claude's sidebar, and a user request. Boom. The entire chain runs in an invisible iframe, and the attacker's page embeds the vulnerable Arcos component in a hidden iframe here. And that sends the cross-site scripting payload via the post message, injects the script, fires the prompt for execution. Victim sees nothing. You see nothing. You can't see me. Oh, that's funny. All right, let me catch up on the chat real quick.
RNO Gumby cheered 5 bits and says, "So I had an interesting day today. I had to go for a colonoscopy then and eye doctor's appointment. So they scoped my ass and my eye are ass. Hee hee."
I think you meant my eyes are ass. Damn it, Gumby. Not prompted by Jocko yet. Oh, damn it. Banned. Let's see. I don't know where to go from that. I don't either, man. That's wild. All right. I think this brings us into all of the various Claude Code releasing their source code shenanigans. Actually, no, take it back. We're going to cover Axios first. Let me see what else I've got in here. There's so much. People have been ripping apart the Claude Code source code and getting a very deep dive into like all of its various pieces, including bypassing some weak-ass DRM they put in there. Oh, I did already have the Axios one. Okay, cool. Hang on one second, guys. I got to run to the bathroom, and then we're going to go talk about Axios getting popped with another supply chain attack. So give me one sec. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. I'm back. Guess who's back? Back again. Blaise is back. Tell a friend they need to update Axios. I wasn't pooping, Gumpy. I had to go talk to Sock real fast. Still ads. They should be done. All right. So, from always, our favorite smelly threat actor liaison extraordinaire, VX Underground. When did I swear? I didn't swear. And yes, smelly does rule. There's a project on GitHub called Axios. Axios is extremely popular. It's used by millions upon millions of applications. Axios is a programming library that helps your JavaScript code make HTTP requests and communicate with websites. In simple terms, if you're a programmer doing something with JavaScript and you want to do stuff that communicates with a website in literally any capacity, people heavily recommend using Axios due to its simplicity. Using Axios, you don't have to reinvent the wheel and do a bunch of work. All you need to do is import Axios into your code and you're off to the races. For some reason this reads like a children's book. I don't know why. Someone, currently unknown, compromised Axios, currently unknown how, to deliver malware to people. When someone updates or installs Axios, Axios itself contains malware. What the malware does is, currently, unknown. It is being reverse engineered by probably every malware analyst on the planet at this moment. In a few hours, more details will emerge. Information is being exchanged in real time on social media and private communication platforms as I write this. Due to the size and popularity of Axios, it's unknown how many are impacted. It could be millions, it could be thousands, or if we're lucky, only hundreds of people or organizations will be impacted. If this is the absolute worst case scenario, millions of organizations across the planet have been infected with malware, which currently we do not understand. RIP. However, the likelihood of this is low. It appears Axios being compromised was detected quickly, potentially within minutes or hours of being compromised to deliver malware. Additionally, the likelihood of every Axios user updating Axios as soon as it was compromised to deliver malware is astronomically low. The impact of Axios being compromised is devastating. The fallout from this will be a massive headache. This is unironically a malware nuclear missile that would likely be studied in the future. Now, for some reason, unfortunately, it looks like this X account got suspended, but there was Oh, who was it? There was a guy. Hang on. Let's see if good old Claw will find this. Who's the researcher on X that had set up alerting for this kind of scenario? I'm checking because I don't remember his name. First to raise the alarm on GitHub. I tried to remember the guy's name. I thought I saved it, but I didn't. Yeah, here we go. Security researcher Ashish Kumari. Let me see if I can find him real quick. Because he set up something. I think that's him. That doesn't look right. This dude's talking about India's Got Talent. I don't think that was him. There's so many Ashish Kumaris. Hold on. Actually, hold on. We'll just go look at the issue here. Yeah, here we go. Hold on. Does this have a link to his Twitter profile? Let me see. Open. Let's see. It doesn't. Damn. Anyway, this guy went through and basically set up... Oh, maybe he explains it here. Basically talking about how he did it. No, I want to see how he detected it because he set up something that was almost like a tripwire to look for these kind of things. So Step Security's hardened runner, whose community tier is free to the public for public repos and used by over 12,000 public repos, detected the compromised Axios package making anomalous outbound connections to the attacker's C2 across multiple open source projects. For example, Hardened Runner flagged the C2 callback to scrapflack.com during a routine CI run in the Backstage repository, one of the most widely used developer portal frameworks. The Backstage team has confirmed that the workflow is intentionally sandboxed and the malicious package installed did not impact the project. The connection was automatically marked as anomalous because it had never appeared in any prior workflow runs. Hardened Runner has insights for community tier projects by this design. So their system is the one that actually went through and detected this and brought it up. Smelly does have a few cats. He also has a gallery of cat pics. Oh yeah. If you ever just like need a pick-me-up, go over to VX Underground and then just go to media right here. And it's just, look at all these. Look at that. Look at that little face. He's just sitting there writing malware, happy as can be. That cat is living his best life right now. And look at this absolute chonker. That's the kind of cat you want on a cold night. You know, that cat will keep you warm. This one, however, is plotting your destruction. Right there. So yeah, anytime you need a little pick-me-up, just go over to VX Underground's Twitter, look at his media, and just adore all the little cats right here. Occasionally you get a little Dwight Schrute in there. So, not sure what else is going on with the Axios compromise, but it was big. Yeah. What did he do with this one? Next time on Dragon Ball Z, what was this? Hold on, can I see the actual tweet without having to like bring it up? Look at his poster. Here we go. We'll read this one just for fun. Big beef on the internet today between two threat actor groups, Team PCP and Shiny Hunters. Why? No idea. Supposedly, if the people who were wear Naruto pajamas and chit chat on Telegram are telling the truth, Team PCP said mean stuff about Shiny Hunters. Shiny Hunters made a rebuttal, calling them mean names as well. The result is Team PCP threatening Shiny Hunters with physical violence. Nerd fight! This caused an escalation in tension, whereas Shiny Hunters alleges they have information on the identities of Team PCP and will expose them. Is either party capable of physically harming the other or doxing them? No idea. However, both parties seem relatively frustrated with each other. There's just no honor amongst thieves anymore, man. Will Team PCP give Shiny Hunters a boo-boo? Will Shiny Hunters dox Team PCP? Will the conflict resolve itself? Is all this theatrics, and they're all actually really best friends who do stuff together for you, as in you and me? Is in for anywhere, anytime, at all, down here in the deep blue sea? Find out in the next action-packed episode of Dragon Ball Z. I love Smelly's Twitter. He is top tier. Hey, Max, what's going on? Shiny hunters are weird because can't get their head straight. One day they feel like up and quitting, next day this. That's kind of what was happening with Team PCP also. All right, so now to like what has gone and driven like all of the Twitter sphere and AI agent people absolutely wild is, let's talk about this. Hang on, let me bring this up. So quick recap from what I was talking about earlier. Let me clear this out. My nose keeps itching. It's rude. All right, so let's say you are some kind of, I don't know, self-hating fool, and you decide to write something in TypeScript. Why? Because you're sad, and you want everyone else to be sad too. So you write something in TypeScript. The problem is you got to have it go into some kind of a runtime, right? And that runtime doesn't understand TypeScript at all. So what do you have to do? In order to get it over into this runtime, you got to make a little detour. This route doesn't work. You got to go through something called transpiling. We'll just call this TP right here. And transpiling takes all your beautiful JavaScript, actually converts it into usable JavaScript here, and then it can now run. It can go inside the runtime. So the problem is this JavaScript looks like absolute ass whenever it comes out. It's not readable. You can't debug it. It works fine. So the good guys over at TP realize all that TP is doing is just taking care and smearing shit around. So then they decided to make something called source maps. So what do source maps do? Source maps actually allow you to take this and combine it with the ass that is spit out here. And finally, you can return that back to the original source code. So it's basically like a map back to the source. Go figure. So what happens actually if you accidentally ship your source maps? Well, then anybody who's got a copy of your ass JavaScript here can then take that and then go back and get your original source code. And guess what? The guys over at Claude Code, maybe not the guys, maybe the bots, someone shipped their source maps. Not for the first time. So this has happened before, but it's been, I don't know, maybe about a year, I think, and there's been a lot of Claude Code updates since then, and they recovered the full source code. It's still available on the internet. I will not be showing the source code. You can go find it yourself. It's very easy to get. Hope you don't attempt to be an art teacher in college. I think I'd get hired. My paint skills are pretty on point. Eventually, I'll get the iPad set back up where I can actually have the pen and I can do proper drawings. But it's kind of weird with the dual streaming setup. I got to figure out how I want to do it. Also, I'm kind of running out of... I need to get a USB hub because I've run out of ports on the streaming computer. Paint.net? No, never. Never. Maybe I'll just start using whatever that drawing program is that Theo uses, because it's pretty legit. Although he works on a Mac, and I don't want to work on a Mac. So, why do I tell you about source maps? Because that brings us to the current situation where Claude, the guys over at Anthropic, accidentally shipped their source maps. I'm still waiting on mod stacks. I'll think about it. But you have to remember, that means that you're now going to be like a Fed mod, remember? Because everybody in chat is a Fed. That's the rules of the chat. So what everybody else has been doing, going back to the article, chat's distracting me, is they've gone through and they have recompiled and recovered all the source code. They got the minified copy from, from Claude. The source maps were accidentally shipped out to NPM, if I remember correctly. And so when you downloaded the tar.gz, they were inside there, you got it, boom, you've got the entire code from it. And there has been just a huge amount of information gleaned from these. So let's go through the first one here. This is from Laura Alexander over on Les Twitters. I still don't call it X really. And he says, source maps bundled into Claude Code's NPM package expose the entire TypeScript source tree. Hey, Pursuit, thanks for coming online, man. So they exposed the entire source script type tree, source tree. God, get my words right. 2,200 files, 512,000 lines of code. The high-level architecture has been covered elsewhere. This piece focuses on the specific non-obvious things that are actually useful. Prompt engineering patterns that steer the model behavior, operational thresholds calibrated for production incidents, security techniques, context management strategies, and a few things that are just fun to know about. So the system prompt is a masterclass in behavioral steering. The full system prompt lives in Constance Prompts TS. Now, I find this funny because the system prompt has been around for forever, so I don't know why he decided to do this with the leak of the code, but it's fine. It's the single most valuable file in the archive, not because it's secret, but because it shows exactly how Anthropic steers Claude's behavior in a production coding agent and why each instruction exists. 3 similar lines of code is better than a premature abstraction. The coding instructions section explicitly tells Claude not to create helpers, utilities, or abstractions for one-time operations. It says, don't design for hypothetical future requirements. And this exists because language models love abstraction. Given a repeated pattern, Claude will instinctively create a helper function, add configurability, or build a utility class. In a coding agent, this creates bloat the user never asked for. Anthropic learned that you have to explicitly tell the model to resist its own instinct toward over-engineering. That's actually pretty interesting, because I have noticed that in several language models. So if you're building any AI coding tool, you'll face that same problem. Encode your coding philosophy directly into your prompt. Vague instructions like write clean code don't work. Pretty much. $44 billion and everyone still calls it Twitter. I bet that does kind of piss him off a bit. OpenCode is probably half TypeScript and desktop app is different. Yeah. Now what's funny is, like I said, the everything for Claude Code is like over 500,000 lines, and I think OpenCode is only like 180,000. I think I saw someone say. So yeah, it's kind of weird. So what else did they say? Default to writing no comments. A at model launch annotation explains that it is counterweight to the Capybara model, which is an internal code name, which over comments by default. Only add a comment when the why is not obvious. And so each model generation has different failure modes. Capybara, whichever model that one was, apparently floods code with obvious comments like tac increment counter. Rather than retraining, Anthropic patches the behavior through prompt instructions tagged with the model launch key, whatever this is. So they can be adjusted or removed with each model release. And this is useful. This is a useful pattern. Tag your model-specific prompt workarounds so you know which ones revisit when you upgrade a model. Actually, this is a really cool pattern to know about, especially in the future where when I get ready to rewrite Hackbot, I wanted to be able to test it against different models. So this is actually a really cool idea to use because different models will behave differently. They've got their own kind of quirks to them. So being able to go through and tune them and then run them against something like Dreadnought Strikes would be really cool. But this report outcomes faithfully. Another annotation reveals that Capybara has a 29 to 30% false claims rate. And the prompt explicitly tells Claude never to claim all tests passed when output shows failures, never suppress failing checks to manufacture a green result, and never characterize incomplete work as done. And this is the most consequential finding in the codebase. Newer, more capable models are more likely to confidently lie about results. They're better at generating plausible sounding summaries, which means that it's better at papering over failures. And if you're using any language model to run tests or validate code or check results, you need explicit anti-hallucination instructions. Report outcomes faithfully. That's not enough. You need specific failure modes called out. Don't claim passing tests when the output shows failures. Don't suppress errors and don't characterize broken work as done. Don't just leave me alone. I just want to vibe code. I like vibe coding, but also I'm not shipping anything. I do stuff for fun in it. Yeah, so Anthropic went on a huge DMCA sprawl and was just shooting their DMCA load all over the internet earlier today. Which is funny because technically under DMCA, machine-generated code
cannot be copyrighted. What that means is if you are writing everything which they have said in Claude Code inside of Claude Code, basically having it iterate on itself, then that would technically mean all the code is machine generated and can't be copyrighted. So how can you take something down with the DMCA, which is the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, if it's not copyrighted? Let's see. Numeric length acres beat qualitative instructions. So a source comment says research shows 1.2% of output token reduction versus qualitative be concise instead of keep it short. So they tell the model, keep text between tool calls to less than 25 words, keep final responses to under 100 words. And Anthropic ran experiments comparing be concise against specific word counts, and the numbers won. So if you're trying to control output length in any language model application, stop using adjectives and start using numbers. That's interesting, because a lot of times whenever I've been prompting systems, I tell it, provide concise responses and sacrifice grammar for the sake of concision. That beard hair in my mouth again. This isn't rude. Now what about this? External versus internal prompt split. The external prompt says, go straight to the point, be concise. The internal Anthropic employee prompt is much longer with instructions like, use inverted pyramid, avoid semantic backtracking, and write so the reader can pick back up cold. And Anthropic dogfoods the richer prompts on employees first, measuring the quality, and only ships it externally after validation. So if you're iterating on prompts using this pattern, run 2 variants, test the more ambitious one on internal users, and promote it whenever the data supports it. There was also a hidden simple mode. So they have a bunch of hidden environment variables in the code which you're able to like get them back. This entire multi-section prompt collapses into a single line. Your Claude Code, Anthropic's official CLI for Claude, followed by a current working directory and a date. So no instructions, no tone guidance, and no tool use rules. And this exists for debugging and benchmarking. So when something goes wrong, you need to isolate whether it's the prompt or the model that are having trouble. So with this one simple mode, you can baseline which one it is instantly. If your AI produces a complex system prompt, build yourself a simple mode too. Very cool. I love this one because I've done this before. Swearing at Claude Code logs your prompt as a negative in analytics. So I disable these by default. However, I do find this really funny. So there will be like telemetry and analytics gathering in Claude Code, and you can disable them as part of your configuration. But in the user prompt keywords is a 26-line file that checks every prompt against 2 regex patterns before it's sent to the API. The negative keyword detector matches like WTF, WTA, FFS for flip's sake, OMFG, shitty, dumbass, horrible, awful, pissed off, piece of crap, everything. The keep going detector matches the exact word continue only if it's the entire prompt, plus keep going only anywhere in the input. And both flags are logged in analytics as Tango input prompts and is negative, basically keeping them as Boolean values. So Anthropic needs to measure user satisfaction without asking the users to fill out surveys every few minutes. Profanity is a strong symbol. I remember doing this one time. Like I was working in Claude Code and it was like completely screwing something up. And I think I told it something like, holy shit, how are you so bad at this? Just use the tool I told you to use. Yeah. Hashtag strong signal. So that means the model, basically if you say keep going, that's also a signal saying the model stopped too early. So by logging both, Anthropic can build dashboards correlating frustration with the model versions or features or other sets in here. Also, number 3, Claude has a Tamagotchi. In the buddy directory, implements a full procedurally generated companion creature system. Your user ID is hashed with mulberry32, which is a seeding PRNG hash. And the hash determines your companion's species, a duck, a goose, a blob, a cat, an octopus, other things like that. And also an eye style and a hat. Also a rarity and 5 stats for debugging, patience, chaos, wisdom, and snark. Each species has 3 ASCII art frames for idle animation. Do we really need Tamagotchis inside of Claude Code? A separate model call generates the companion's personality and names upon first hatching. The system prompt tells Claude a small species name blank sits beside the user's input box. You're not this thing, it's a separate watcher. Species names are encoded in strings. instead of plain text literals because one species name, capybara, collides with an internal model code name. And the build time grep catches lead code names. So developer tools are used for hours a day, personality and delight reduce churn, and the engineering is minimal. But the result could be every user gets a unique companion without any storage or database or API overhead. I don't know if I want that from my coding agent. Yes, for 23. Echo 23. Number 4, there's 187 spinner verbs, and you can add your own. Wait, you can add your own? What? I knew there were a bunch in there. Loading states are dead time, so most tools show a loading or leaving it that. Claude turns dead time into a personality, and a replace or append config means enterprise users can strip the whimsy, while individual users can add their own. Oh, okay, actually, I did know about that, yeah. That was a configuration you can do inside of Claude Code. Now, this is actually really interesting. Something they tried to do, and I'm sure that anybody who has the sophistication to go do distillation is the... So if you're not familiar with distillation, what this is sending a lot of different prompts over to Claude Code and then getting the responses back and then using that as a training pair, input-output training pair. So they added anti-distillation and fake tool calls to poison competitors from trying to do distillation. And it contains a feature flag measuring that sends anti-distillation fake tool calls in the API request body. And this tells the Anthropic API to inject fake non-functional tool definitions into the request. So this is also in streamlined implementing a distillation resistance output format that strips thinking content and summarizes tool calls into category counts. So if someone captures Claude Code's API traffic to fine-tune a competitor model, the fake tools in the training data will degrade the competitor's tool use performance. The model will learn to call tools that don't exist, and it's an elegant defense because it's invisible to the end user and poisonous to anyone training on the model trace. That's funny. Let's see. I did know about this, but it's reasonable to bring up again. The prompt cache economy is managed obsessively. The most complex non-UI code for the code base is in the prompt cache break detection. So on every single API call, it hashes the system prompt. No wonder why it takes so damn long when you're trying to send some of these things. You got to hash that entire prompt. Every tool schema is individually in the model name, beta headers, and basically a lot of other stuff. So if anything changes, it logs which component changed and generates a unified diff. And the system prompt is split into across a dynamic boundary. So everything above is static and cacheable, everything below is dynamic and session variant. MCP server instructions were removed from the system prompt to Delta attachments in messages because having them in the system prompt broke the caching every time a user connected, or every time a new server was connected to it. Subagents inherit that structure, continuing the parameter persistence, yada yada. So the reason why this all matters is because when they're doing prompt caching, what they're doing is they're pre-computing everything that you need up to that point, and then they're storing it in memory. So what does that do? It saves some computation time. Then as you add new things to it, it can just go take that smaller segment and then go run that through the language model with the already computed stuff and get the new response out of it. So it saves computation time. On the flip side, it also means that now you've got to have more memory to store those prompts in there. That's why if you ever look at the pricing structure for a lot of these systems, that they've got prompt caching in there, what they're doing is they're caching that prompt, and then since it's already been computed, they charge you less for that computed time. I'm a Fed with the Russian military recruitment code this from a leak 3 months ago. We'll trade for Claude Tamagotchis. Funny story though, I knew this guy who, long time ago, I forget what he actually did, but he was actually in Russia long time ago, I think before the Cold War officially ended, and he brought blue jeans with him, like American Levi blue jeans. Lots of extra pairs, because apparently they were a really big trading item in Russia during like the 80s. And he traded them to this Russian military guy for a set of night vision goggles. Yeah. Potion, I hate to break it to you, man, but you're a Fed now. So the rules of the chat are, don't talk about anything illegal because everyone in chat is... sorry. Let me rephrase that. One of the rules is everybody in chat is a Fed. And the one immediately preceding that is Don't talk about anything illegal. Everyone in chat is a Fed. All right, what do we have here? Internal code names and model migration history. Not so interested in that. Undercover mode for contributing to open source without blowing cover. Ooh, what is this? This activates automatically when Anthropic employees with the user type of Ant works on a non-internal repository. So it's on by default. It only turns off when the git remote positively matches an internal allow list. So when active, the system prompt gets injected title undercover mode critical and tells Claude, you are operating undercover in a public open source repository. Your commit messages, PR titles, and PR bodies must not contain any Anthropic internal information. Don't blow your cover. Nice. So the banned list, internal model code names like Capybara or Tengu, unreleased model version numbers, internal repo code names, Slack channels, the phrase Claude code, any mention of being an AI or co-authored by AI. That's funny. Hey, Cypher, what's up, dude? Happy Wednesday. Oh, that's hilarious. All right, so what about this? The 250,000 wasted API calls that led to a circuit breaker. So the auto compaction system comment is the most honest engineering documentation ever in the archive. So 1,279 sessions had 50 plus consecutive failures, up to 3,272 at a single session, wasting around 250,000 API calls a day globally. The fix was max consecutive auto-compact failures equals 3. So after 3 consecutive auto-compaction failures, the system stops trying. Oh, okay. That's interesting. The compaction system preserves 20,000 tokens for summary output, calibrated for P99.9 of observed summary links at 17,387 tokens. So the auto-compact threshold is a context window with a max output. And so this basically exists because when the context window fills up, Claude tries to summarize and compress conversations, but if the context is already too long for the summary call, or the API is down, the summarization itself will fail. So without a circuit breaker, the system tries endlessly. Dang, that's a lot of tries in there. Oh, what is this? The verification agent, an adversarial reviewer built into the loop. So when enabled, the system prompt tells Claude, when non-trivial implementation happens on your turn, independent adversarial verification must happen before you report completion. Non-trivial means 3+ file edits, backend or API changes, or infrastructure changes. Interesting. That's pretty cool. So the key constraint is your own checks, caveats, and forks self-checks do not substitute. Only the verifier assigns a verdict. You cannot self-assign partial. On fail, Claude fixes or resubmits. On pass, Claude is instructed to spot check the verifier, rerun 2 to 3 commands from the report, confirm every pass has confirmed, has a command run block for with the output. Interesting. Ever tried asking OpenAI to give you a seahorse emoji? I can't say that I have. Although I actually did just get access to, from a very cool benefactor that hopefully I can use on the stream. I need to go verify with them. But I actually did get access to Codex. I just don't know if they'll allow me to use it on the stream or for stream stuff. I got to go verify with them. But if I can, then we'll start tinkering around with that too. So what about this? Auto Dream for background memory consolidation. So this implements a background memory consolidation. So when enough time has passed and enough sessions have accumulated, Claude Code runs the dream prompt as a forked sub-agent, reviewing past session transcripts and consolidating them into a structured memory file. I mean, that's kind of cool, but honestly, I like the way Pi does it a lot better. So what it does is, if enough time has basically since the hour since the last consolidation, or if there's a high session count, or if there's a lock, if another process is already mid-consolidation, it acquires a file system lock. So long-running projects span many sessions without consolidation. Each session starts from scratch. So the dream metaphor is apt. Just like biological memory consolidation during sleep, the system reviews recent experiences and compresses it into a durable structured knowledge. Interesting. There's about 2,500, almost 2,600 lines of bash security with individual checks. What else we got in here? Oh, interesting. A security scanner runs before team memory upload. So the security scanner runs client-side before any team memory is uploaded. It checks 20 plus credential patterns, including AWS access tokens, API keys, GitHub PATs, Anthropic API keys, Slack tokens or Stripe keys or private SSH keys. And the Anthropic API key regex is split across multiple variables, so basically the key value never appears as a string literal in the bundle. And the team memory sync means that sending structured data to a server, developers routinely paste API keys or connectivity strings and tokens into their terminals. Ah, okay. Now what this? This is interesting. The excluded strings for built-in canaries. Man, this guy, they covered a lot of stuff in here. So references to excluded strings.txt appears across the code base. The file lists internal code names or API prefixes and other strings that must never appear in the external build. Oh, okay. That's less interesting than I thought about. The key takeaway is the code is scar tissue, and now every scar is documented. Oh, dude, that's awesome. So this guy actually came through, by the way, because of the way you can go through and you can distill these things, and there were all these test suites, and there is plenty of evidence that if you use nothing but a series of test suites, you can go open code this. You can basically go duplicate a code base. A lot of folks have gone through and made Python versions of Claude Code.
RNO Gumby cheered 5 bits and says, "Good news though, I get 2 pairs of glasses to set are clear lenses and the other will be dark lenses, also known as sunglasses."
Also, I love you, Gumby, but I'm skipping this as a test. You didn't know I had a skip button, did you? Oh yeah, I was prepared for you folks. I guess I should really say you people. And yes, what do I mean by you people? I mean you people. Let me see if I can find it real quick, actually. Where was the Python implementation of this? Let's see. Claude Code, Python version. See if I can find it. Someone here did it. Is this it? Let's see. Yeah, Claw Code. That was the name of it. Let me see if this is the right one, though. I wouldn't go trust... Like, this is from Ultra Workers. I don't know if that's the one I would actually go trust with it. I don't think that's the right one. But someone actually did go through and basically... Very similar to what... I think the guys at Cloudflare did with Next.js, where they recreated Next.js based on all the test cases that were in there, and why a lot of open source projects are now not putting their test cases into the public repositories. And they basically went through and they used a coding agent to go build all of the core code based on the test cases from the open source system. So now a lot of systems are just taking their test cases and taking it out of the public repo. What do you mean? I'm clearly a dog. Yeah, I know that.
RNO Gumby cheered 5 bits and says, "Yes, I knew that."
I knew you knew that. All right, let's see here. So what did this guy say? Another one of these guys. They've all been going through and looking at the source code. I think it's funny he said I reverse engineered the linked source code. Like, you're not reverse engineering, you're just reading it at that point. Turns out Anthropic is aware of Claude Code hallucinations and laziness, and their fixes are gated to employees only. So there's an employee-only verification gate. This one's going to make a lot of people angry. You ask the agent to edit 3 files. It says, "Done," with the enthusiasm of a fresh intern that really wants the job. You open the project and find 40 errors. So here's why. In the tool execution, the agent success metric for a file write is exactly one thing. Did the write operation complete? Not does the code compile or did I introduce error types? Just bytes hit disk, it did. Fucking A, ship it. Now, here's the part that stings. The source contains explicit instructions telling the agent to verify its work before reporting success. It checks that all tests pass and runs the script, confirms the output. These instructions are gated behind a system called process env user type equals ant, basically meaning from Anthropic. What this means is that Anthropic employees get post-edit verification and you don't. Their own internal comment documents a 29 to 30% false claim rate in the current model. Hang on. I love that was their fix to it. They knew it and built a fix, but then didn't basically make it public. So you need to inject their own verification loop manually. So in your Claude MD, you make it non-negotiable after every file modification, the agent runs whatever it is in there and allows it to run it. There's also the context death spiral. So you push a long refactor. First 10 messages seem surgical and precise. By message 15, the agent is elucidating variable names, referencing functions that don't exist, and breaking things it understood perfectly 5 minutes ago. As it turns out, this is not a degradation. It's something more like amputation. So the autocompact runs compaction routines when the context pressure crosses roughly 167,000 tokens, and when it fires, it keeps 5 files capped at 5,000 tokens each, compresses everything else into a single 50,000 token summary, and throws away every file read. Even the reasoning chains, every intermediate decision, all of it gone. Yep. So the override is, step 0 of any refactor must be deletion. Not restructuring, but just nuking dead weight. Strip dead prompts, use unused exports, orphaned imports, debugs, things like that. See, there's also the brevity mandate, which I think we already talked about. Let's see. Oh, what is this? The agent swarm nobody told you about. You ask your agent to refactor 20 files. By file 12, it's lost coherence on file 3. Obviously, we have context decay. What's less obvious is that Anthropic built the solution and never surfaced it. Let's see. The agent context file shows each subagent has its own isolated async local storage, its own memory and compaction cycle, its own tokens, but there's no hard-coded maxed workers limit in the codebase. They built a multi-agent orchestration system with no ceiling and left you to use one like it's left you to use one agent like it's 2023. That's wild that it would do that. Hey, Icarus, what's going on? That's right, Ben. You're doing the Lord's work with that one. Best case I've heard for AI yet. Clearly management material. I know, right? But if you ask it to fix it or verify, you spend more tokens. I know, right? Heck, I'm on a subscription anyway. I'll use that tokens. Let's see. So one agent has about 167...
Virus infection alert.
Hey, it's Parts People. Welcome in, y'all. We are just discussing all of the leaked Claude code source code. We're not looking at the actual source code, but we are going through and checking it out. So welcome in, Raiders. I hope you all are having a fantastic night. Now, let me do the... Give my Parts People a little shout out. Welcome in, y'all. Yeah, so to catch y'all up, for everybody who's just came in on the raid, there was a big kerfuffle. And in fact, I'm going to bring up my beautiful paint here. Nope, that's not it. Where is it? Here it is. Close that. So, essentially, what happened here, giving you the 50,000 foot overview. Aaron Fox, thanks for coming online. Dude, the ads came up. That sucks. So what happened here is, if you're not familiar with Claude Code, it is an AI coding agent, lives in your terminal. It is fantastic at what it does, but it also has all of its issues. Well, Claude Code is actually written in TypeScript, and TypeScript actually isn't anything that can run in runtime, and usually it's only used by people that hate themselves. So TypeScript goes through a process called transpiling to actually make it into JavaScript. However, the JavaScript it makes is absolute and total ass, but it does run in the runtime and it works. So how do you debug something that is ass and is not human readable? Well, you make something called a source map. The source maps allow you to take this, go to the JavaScript, which is now a purely and utterly ass, and then reconstruct the original source code. So if you've got the minified and transpiled version of the JavaScript plus the source maps, you can get the original source code all the way down. I didn't mention this earlier, to the comments in the code. Yeah, I know I only put one in, but I'm lazy. So you get the full thing back. And what did Anthropic do? For the second time I remember, accidentally shipped their source maps. People got a hold of it, and then boom, they have the entire source code for Claude Code, which should have been open sourced anyway, and then they have just been shooting their DMCA load all over the internet about it. However, all the analysis cannot be DMCA'd, so here we are talking about it. Spelling comments wrong has to be a violation of the Geneva Convention. Probably. All right, so that's what we're doing right now. It's kind of going through and looking at some of the analysis of everybody, like, wondering about this. They have done this before. I think it was a year and a half ago when it came up. And so now we're going back through and kind of seeing what's been the new updates. Hang on. Hey, Spinstar, thanks for coming online, man. That feels like a very long setup just to use the phrase DMCA load. They did. They blew a big DMCA load, and they're not afraid to blow it again. All right, so let's look at it here. The 2,000 line blind spot. So the agent reads, or let's say it reads the 3,000 line file, then makes edits that reference code from line 2400 it clearly never processed. So each file read is hard capped at 2,000 lines, or roughly 25,000 tokens, or actually whichever one it is, because the line breaks don't necessarily matter when it comes to token length. Everything past that is silently truncated. The agent doesn't know what it doesn't see. It doesn't warn you. It just hallucinates the rest and keeps going. So any file over 500 lines of code gets read in chunks using an offset and limit parameters. Never let it assume a single read captured the full file. So if you don't enforce this, you're truncating edits against code that it literally cannot see. Well, that's good to know. I saved 2 out of the 3 laptops tonight. All right, dude. Yeah, no, appreciate it, man. That's some... Dude, I love watching the hardware folks work, and that is hard work, and it is very detailed work. So you have earned your rest, especially after doing that for 15 hours, bro. That's a long day, man. I hope you go home and you just chill. I want you to chill. Have a slice of pizza. Maybe grab a beer if that's your thing. I had some pizza last night. It's not usually on my eating plan, but you know what? I took my buddy out because I had seen him in several weeks. I wanted to check on him. He's going through a rough time. And so I said, you want to do pizza? He said, yeah, let's do pizza. I said, okay, we're going to do some pizza. Because there's a bomb-ass Italian pizzeria not too far from where we were hanging out. All right, let's see. What else do we got here that is another Band-Aid fix in Claude Code? Tool result blindness. So you ask for a code base-wide grep. It returns 3 results. You check manually, and there's 47. Tool results exceeding 50,000 characters get persisted to disk and replaced with a 2,000 byte preview. The agent works from the preview. It doesn't know the results were truncated, and it reports 3 because that's all that fit in the preview window. Damn, that's bad. Grep is not an AST. What do you mean here? So you rename a function. Agent greps for callers, updates 8 files, misses 4 that use dynamic imports, re-exports, or string references. The code compiles in the files it touched. Of course, it breaks everywhere else. Nice. So the reason is that Claude Code has no semantic code understanding. Grep tool is raw text pattern matching. It can't distinguish between a function call from a comment. It cannot distinguish a function call from a comment or differentiate between identically named imports from different modules. So on any rename or signature change, force separate searches like direct calls or type references. That's funny. Oh, that's too funny. That and like, it's those weird little issues that actually make so much sense in some of the work that I've done with Claude Code. That is hilarious. All right, what else we got in here? All right, so this was something else that was hidden inside the source code. There's a hidden feature in the source code. This is from Ole? I don't know how to say it. Lehman. But anyway, this is from him over on Twitter, because that's where most of the analysis has been so far. It just happened the other day. There's a hidden feature inside the source code called Kairos, and it's basically shows you Anthropic's endgame. Kairos is an always-on proactive Claude that does anything without asking it to. It runs in the background 24/7. Anthropic hasn't turned it on for the public yet, but the code is fully built. So every few seconds, Kairos gets a heartbeat signal. Basically a prompt that says anything worth doing right now. And it looks at what's happening and makes a call. Do something or stay quiet. Sounds like Claude Code, honestly. Or not cloud code, what is it? OpenClaw, Maltbot, whatever they renamed it to. I forget. What's the actual name now? Feds like pineapple on their pizza? Oh, I'm definitely not a Fed then. No. Maybe if it was fresh pineapple banned, but like out of the can pineapple? No, that's a violation of the Geneva Convention. That's what that is. Can't confirm I'm a Fed and I love pizza. I think your logic is a little off. Let's see. So what are we looking at with this? All right, so basically, after it receives the heartbeat, it says, hey, is there anything doing? It can do something or it can stay quiet. If it acts, it can fix errors in the code, respond to messages, or update files. Basically, anything Claude Code could already do just without telling you. But here's what makes Keros different from regular Claude Code. It has at least 3 exclusive tools that regular Claude Code does not have. Push notifications, so it can reach you on your phone or your desktop even when you're not at the terminal. File delivery, so it can send you things. Actually, this is interesting, but it can already be done using lifecycle hooks. I do it. File delivery, so it can send you things it created without you asking for them. That's actually kind of cool. Pull request subscription, so it can watch your GitHub and react to code changes on its own. Oh, that's dangerous. I cannot mention who I've done this to before, but I have compromised and done indirect prompt injections by doing that very thing right there. So it keeps daily logs of everything. So what it noticed, what it decided, and what it did. And it's append only, meaning it can't erase the history. At night, it runs something the code literally calls auto dream, where it consolidates everything it learned. We just talked about that earlier. Basically taking everything and trying to have like a memory system. A Fed would mention the Geneva Convention in casual conversation. Someone else brought it up earlier when I misspelled comment. And I misspelled it because I was lazy. I didn't feel like writing 2 M's. So what would this kind of mean in practice? So you're asleep and your website goes down. Keros detects it, restarts the server, and sends you a notification. By the time you see it, it's already back up. That's kind of cool, but also Claude Code has deleted production databases, so maybe not the best thing. You got a customer complaint email at 2 a.m. Keros reads it, sends a reply, and logs what it did. Yeah. Oh, you're complaining because you didn't have our API key. Here you go. Here's the API key. What about this one? Your Stripe subscription page has a typo that's been live for 3 days. Keros spots it and fixes it and logs the changes. Please don't change my Stripe. Oh, that's hilarious. I mean, I think it's kind of cool, but also having that kind of autonomy in coding agents, I think is going to cause a lot more troubles than it's going to fix. Don't let juniors have prod access. Exactly, Max. That is 100% spot on. Now, this is actually pretty cool because this guy was actually talking about what its memory architecture actually looks like and going into detail. So the memory system is actually insanely well designed. It's like store everything, but constrained, structured, and self-healing memory. Architecture goes like this. Memory equals an index, not storage. The memory ND is always loaded, but it's just pointers to roughly 150 characters per line. Actual knowledge lives outside and is fetched only when needed. I'm going to say they probably took strong... What's the word I'm looking for? Inspiration for this from how Daniel Miesler did the memory system in Pi, because this is almost exactly what Pi kind of does. So there's a 3-layer design. There's always indexing, topic filters for on-demand stuff, and transcripts, which are never read, but they're grepped. And there's also very strict write discipline. Write to the file, then update the index, never dumped content into the index, and prevent entropy and context pollution. And we kind of talked about auto dream, but I'll see what he says here. It merges, dedupes, and removes contradictions, converts vagues to absolutes, aggressively prunes, and memory is continuously edited and not appended. Interesting. So if the memory is not reality, the memory is wrong. The code-derived facts are never stored, and index is forced to be truncated. Isolation matters. Consolidation runs in a forked subagent with limited tools, prevents corruption of the main context. And retrieval is skeptical, not blind. Memory is a hint, but not truth. And the model must verify before using it. And what it doesn't store is the real insight. So no debugging logs, no code structure, which is actually a really good thing because code structure can change all the time. And same thing with no like pull request history. That is very interesting. No worse than my devs who blindly run Claude output anyway. Let's see. Here we go. So due to the leakage of Claude code, the following projects were generated. Oh, so yeah, actually that was the correct one. Ultra Workers Claw code. The fastest repo in history to surpass 50,000 stars, reaching a milestone in just 2 hours after publication. I do love this little pixel art here. So these guys are actually going through, and here, I'll read you the backstory. So at 4 a.m. on March 31st, I woke up to my phone blowing up with notifications. The Claw code, I think you meant to say Claude, source code had been exposed and the entire dev community was in a frenzy. My girlfriend in Korea was genuinely worried I might face legal action for the original authors just having the code on my machine. So I did what any engineer would do under pressure. I sat down, ported the core features to Python from scratch, and pushed it before the sun came up. The whole thing was orchestrated end-to-end using OhmyCodex, a workflow layer built on top of OpenAI's Codex, and I used the team mode for parallel code review and a Ralph mode for persistent execution loops with architecture level verification. The entire porting session, from reading the original harness structure to producing a working Python tree with tests, was driven through OhmyCodex orchestration. I'll have to check that out since I'm going to have access to Codex soon. The result is a clean Python rewrite that captures the architectural patterns of, I don't know if you meant Claw codes or Claude codes, agent harness without copying any proprietary source. So I'm now actively collaborating with Bellman, the creator of OMX himself, to push this further. The basic Python foundation is already in place and functional, but we're getting started. Stay tuned. So yeah, there's the Python fork of it. Here, I'm not gonna link all the individual repos, but if you want to check it out, here is. Oh no, what is this one you just sent me, Potion? OpenClaw users at risk. Axios on NPM backdoored with cross-platform rat. Ruh-roh. We'll check this out in just a second.
RNO Gumby cheered 5 bits and says, I am Gumby is Supreme Overlord.
Yes, you are Gumby. Now what about this? Let's see. Let's check out the next repo in the list here. Claude Code best Claude Code. Oh, I don't know if I can translate this because I'm in Brave. But basically, other people coming through and generating stuff for it. What is this one? Free code. This one was forked from Claw code in here. The free build of Claude code. All telemetry stripped, all guardrails removed, all experimental features unlocked. 1 binary, 0 callbacks. Nice. So a lot of people have been going kind of ham on this and basically using that to go build, yeah, probably Chinese spyware. Yeah, probably. I'd be a little sus of it. Go through and rebuild like all these things. What does this person do? I'm curious. I don't know who that is. Oh, I'll follow them. Why not? Especially if they're putting out fun stuff like this. Then there's OpenClaw. There's Klaust. Your favorite terminal coding agent now in Rust. Ugh. Rust. Although if it was written in Rust, it probably wouldn't run like smashed butthole. Yeah, GitHub is going through and doing all their DMCA takedowns. It's a lot of stuff in here. So yeah, lots of leaked or generated code in here. Let's see. Oh, actually, here's something else we were able to glean from the code. And the reason why this stuff is so important and why Anthropic honestly should just go open source Claude code is because people wouldn't have to speculate about this. If you know how the tool works inside and out, then you can build the tool to work well inside and out. You can use the tool better, right? So Claude Code has an interesting recipe for compaction. So Claude Code is not doing one compaction. It has 3 layers, and each layer handles things a little bit differently. So there's micro compaction, which is cheap and done every turn. There's session memory compaction, which doesn't even use the API. And then there's a legacy compact, which is extensive full summarization. So the effective window is the model window. Auto compaction target is effective window after 13,000 tokens. Manual blocking limit is effectively 3,000 tokens. And the system tried to compact before hitting the hard prompt wall, basically. So there's a cheap auto compaction path that happens on every turn, runs before every API request, saves tokens without changing the actual conversation structure. Let's see, the real compaction is boundary based. Claude is asked to summarize prior conversations, and the old transcript is never rewritten or deleted. Session memory compaction is tried first to rebuild the context from files or recent messages. No model calls needed. Let's see, the resume only loaded the world after the last boundary. The smartest trick is preserving tail relinking. So compaction does not just keep a summary, it also keeps a preserved tail of recent live messages. So on resume, the tail is stitched back together from the summary chain. Oh, that's very cool. Oh, cool. He has a flow chart. Let's look at this. So we do micro compaction, and if it's over 13K, then it goes from session memory across the boundary only, puts it onto disk in a JSON-L file, and if you resume it, it reads that JSON-L file in a single pass, does the boundary, relinks it, and then makes it ready. Very cool. The micro compaction sounds really cool. The OpenClaw AI was packaged that was also a rat, and OpenClaw was giving it to its users. Oh no. Yeah, there's so much typo squatting going on in all of those systems. Now, here's the most interesting part, because a lot of people feel that, hey, if they're using their Claude Code subscription, then, or Anthropic subscription, they should be able to use it in any tool they want to, like OpenCode, right? So what these guys did over here, 4NZN, is they crapped something called the CCH, which is a signing system in Claude Code, which got fully reverse engineered. Any open source client can let users actually use the Anthropic subscription they already paid for with whatever tools they want. Already merged into free code, third-party clients can generate a valid CCH hash now, and no official binary is needed. So what happened here is Claude going through and they have basically like a verification hash that they generate for all the various messages. Hey, Peaches. And if that verification hash doesn't pass, then they know that that API request did not come from Claude Code. So it's like a really, really weak DRM system. And these guys went, and since they have the source code, they're like, okay, cool. We just pulled it out of the source code. I wish they wouldn't say it was reverse engineered, guys. You're not reverse engineering anything. You've got it from the freaking source code. Although, actually, technically, they may have had to on this one, because in the source code, I think it was an embedded Zig binary they were using to do the hash computation. Yeah, I think that's what they were doing in that one. And in fact, one guy actually came through and made a whole new library here called basically a Claude Code architecture study in here, going through everything of like what was actually in here. So the full breakdown of all the files, telemetry and privacy, everything that actually talks about like what's in there. I'm surprised this one hasn't gotten taken down yet, because I saved this one way earlier today. So we called this the Learn Claude Code in here. Yes, Peaches is my doggy. Hang on. Peaches. Come here. Come here, Peaches. Come here, Peaches. Come here. There she is. This is Peaches. Hello, Peaches. No, don't lick my face. Yes. Yeah, this is Peaches. She is a Boston Terrier. And she's very, very indoor dog. She's a sweetie. Yes, she's a good Peaches. Yes, you are. You are a good sweetie. And it's so funny because Honey Badger loves her. And not that she doesn't love Honey Badger, but Honey Badger is constantly like, I need to go give Peaches a hug. And we'll go hug her. And the reaction isn't like, oh yes, I love this. It's more like, okay, I'm going to accept this because it's human interaction, and maybe I can sneak some kisses in. She's a big kissy dog. All right, hold on, let's check this one out. So what did OpenClaw users at risk? Axios on NPM backdoored with cross-platform remote access Trojan. Can I zoom in on this anymore? Oh my god, your website is, your CSS is bad and you should feel bad. Let me see what they say about this. Incident summary, attack timeline. Let's see. So they had a poison dependency inside Axios, which was the plain crypto.js. That one I knew about. So the loader runs setup.js, which is, and if I remember correctly, this actually came in and this was working on an install package script. What was the actual term for it? It was an install script. I'm trying to remember the exact term over in what was it? I think it was, I can't remember. Post install script. That's right. So in NPM, you can have, in the package setup, you can have pre and post install scripts. And when those run, they're running code. So a lot of times what will happen is these malicious code authors will put that in the pre or post install script so that you go in and you pull up NPM, you tell it to do an NPM install. It will auto run those scripts when they happen. So what they did is they did the same thing here. And the setup.js is an obfuscated JavaScript loader. It functions pretty straightforward. Fingerprint the host operating system, fetch and execute the appropriate platform-specific payloads from the attack server, and it will attack Windows, Linux, or Mac, and makes the attack significantly broader in scope. Well, good. I would hope so. So they don't talk about like what the payload actually does, just like, hey, here's what it's doing. They have some remediation steps and some other stuff. I was hoping to find a good breakdown of the actual payload and see what it's doing in here. Yeah, post install is a really bad thing in there. Let's see. Cloud Code Unpacked. That's pretty cool. Here, hold on. Let me bring this up real quick. Like I said, there is so much like information that has started coming out about this. What actually happens when you type a message into Cloud Code? The agent loop, 50 plus tools in multi-agent orchestration, and unreleased features mapped straight from the source. Nice. This is pretty cool. So you input something like find all to-do comments in the source, and then the message is find all those. It'll start wrapping it. Creates the user message. Boom. Let's see. After it creates the user message, it then does a history append, like keeping track of it. That's very basic agent style in here. Goes through and combines everything from the Claude MD, your 40 tools, your memory, and your context. Actually makes the API call. Does the return. Everything comes back. I love these animations. These are actually pretty cool. Raw tokens is, I'm going to search for this. It should actually show a bunch of thinking steps also. Let me dial up the speed here. Oh no, it's vibe coded. The speed doesn't actually work. Back behind me here, there's like a speed option, right? Doesn't actually work. You didn't test your site before you published it, did you? Oh, I think Poison found an actual breakdown of the payload. Let's see. Oh, nice. Thank you, Poison. Let's go check this out. Because while this is really cool, it's also like, this is fairly standard, like what we'd expect from this. In fact, hooks should actually be in multiple places because the hooks actually exist on like an input before you send. There's multiple lifecycle hooks you can use inside of Claude Code. Let's see here. So what did they do here? So there's the hash of the file, the architecture. So the Linux rat is a single Python script with no obfuscation. It's the cleanest, most readable payload of the three formats. It imports a whole bunch of different items in here. C2 protocol is simple HTTP. The body goes through JSON with UTF-8 and base64 coding for a post.
Alert.
Hey, Shy Hat. Potions is cool. Hip hop hack. Hip hop hack. Hey, Psyched, what's up, dude? We're talking about the Potions just gave us a breakdown of the payload that was used in the Axios hack. So we're going through that right now. All right, have a good night, Gubby. Love you, boo. Got the hip hop hack. Hip hop hack. Oh, hang on, let me. You were talking about Axios also? Nice. I mean, we've hit hack that planet. We've hit the gamut tonight because we just got done talking about a lot of the intel that was gathered from the source code leak for Claude Code, which I was bellyaching that, honestly, I think Anthropic's biggest L, and they've got plenty, was just not open sourcing Claude Code. So they should have done that. All right, Shy Hat. Oh, I understand. You have a great night. Thanks for stopping by. Hope you had a fantastic stream also. Yeah, another NPM one. I know, right? And what's funny is there were actually guys on Twitter. I think it was Tiberius who did it. It's like, really? You compromised Axios and you couldn't even turn it into a worm? What is this, the amateur hour? Given all the NPM worms that we've seen. Right? So, yeah, you came at perfect timing, everybody who just came in from Shy Hat stream, because we're actually going through the actual payload analysis over here. Dude, Tiberius has an awesome sense of humor. What's up? Hang on one sec, guys. All right, I'm back. That was not a stealth poop. Sock came in and had to talk to her real quick. How'd they hack NPM? Well, you don't really hack NPM. You just get hacked by NPM. Oh, they're saying it was a social engineer? Oh, I wouldn't be surprised, especially considering it wasn't like a real broad one, or it wasn't like a supply chain style attack. That makes sense. Oh, nice. Dude, Potion is like the chat's research assistant guru. Let's see. All right, so what else do they have here? So we talked about what they did for encoding. So they JSON to UTF-8, they base 64, they send it in a post. This is like really standard command and control style setup. So what it does is it goes through, it works, it generates a UUID, it gives some initial directory info, sends the first info in the main work loop back. Let's see. So it gathers data like, hey, what's the host name? What's the username? Operating system, the version, things like that. That's right. Hang on. Before we go through this, let's chill out for just a sec because the ads just ran through here. But yeah, I can't believe that they did this and didn't put any kind of wormable system into it. Yeah, Potion's just like, oh yeah, by the way, here's the payload breakdown. Oh, here's a copy of it if you want it. It's a zip file. Here's the password. Oh, that's funny. I do like the fact that they started off with the Linux one because they said basically the Linux version of the payload, which is not very much to think like, hey, if they're all going back to the same command and control, which is highly likely, then the fact that the Linux malware was like an unobfuscated Python, that makes a lot of sense. Let me check something real quick while the ads are still running. I just want to see if there was anything over in the Bad Sector Labs blog that I wanted to check out. Another Citrix NetScaler exploit. Wait, is this the most recent one? No, that's the one from March 29th. Hang on, I gotta check something over on X real quick. Hang on, what is their X handle? Hang on. I think it's I gotta find it real quick. Hold on. Watchtower. Let me see if I can find it. Ah, dang it. What is it? WTCH tower? Ah, I can't find it. What is it? Is it Watchtower? What's the Watchtower blog? Damn it. I can't find it. Damn it. Hold on. What is Watchtower Security's Twitter handle? The search, I think they just gave up on the search and now you just search through. There it is. You just search through here. Wait, is this it? No, that ain't it. That's not it. It's not WT Security. No, the one with the funny blog post. Let me see if I can find it. Watchtower. There we are. Please tell me they posted the new one. Damn it. They're teasing another blog post. And I was like, can you please just release it? I wanted to read it tonight. They have the most hilarious cybersecurity blog ever. Yeah. All right. Anyway, ads are over. Let's go back over to the payload analysis. So it goes through, it's doing some very basic check-in on everything that's happening with it. This model name is... Oh, system vendor. Okay. CPU type, process list. I wonder, this looks very interesting. Like, it almost reminds me of Mythic's C2 callback structure. Like, I wonder if they're using a custom Mythic agent. All right, so the rat command, which is identical for Windows and Mac, has a kill, a PE inject, a run script, and a run dir. And so it does a bunch of process enumeration, gathers system info, boot time, install time, and architecture directives. What about the binary injection? So for binary injection, it writes it over to a temp file, and then it does a chmod against it, and then does a sub process for a process open to it. So very straightforward whenever they're doing this. Which is funny because this isn't binary injection, this is just binary execution. But they also have script execution. So they have a direct shell using command line with sub process, and they have some base64 decoded scripts in here. Let's see. So there's no persistent mechanism. It relies solely on a no-hup from the dropper, which if you don't know what no-hup does, it breaks the process inheritance in Linux. And so, for example, bring up my beautiful list right here. So when you have a process that's running inside of Linux, it doesn't do this in Windows. Windows doesn't really care. But when you've got your process tree here, right? And you've got like all these different processes running. If this one right here dies, right? Then it's going to come through and it's going to kill all these ones below it. So when you no-hup one of these, let's say you had one in here and it spawns a no-hup, it actually doesn't spawn down here. It spawns up on the next parent right here. So it sends it up. So if this process dies, this one down here running our malware can keep running. So not a very good persistence mechanism, but it does make it a little bit more difficult to go kill it in there. Let's see. There's no encryption. All the C2 comms are over clear text HTTP. RIP. No anti-analysis stuff. We saw that. So the code is syntactically clean Python with no suspicious imports. And the file writes are common and legitimate. AV heuristics can't distinguish that from a normal admin script. That's funny. Also, there was a bug in here. So the function we just looked at references base64 string, which is undefined. It should be ITJ bin. This means that the PE inject command would crash on Linux. Either that's a bug in this variant or that was meant to be set somewhere else. They managed to recover the entire PowerShell version in here. C2 protocol looks exactly the same. The PE inject in this case is a reflective .NET loader, which is funny. I was wondering why they called it PE, probably just to keep the command syntax identical. They just swapped it out for the different execution paths. Oh yeah, I was watching Potion as you were just like, here's this version, here's this payload, here's the second stage. Let's see. So this one again, executing fully in memory over inside of PowerShell, executing. This is pretty basic PowerShell though. I'd be really surprised if AMSI didn't catch this. This is the only one that has process injection. Let's see. Reversed variable names suggest code reuse from another tool. The stage one was a system that was again run from the post install script. And then we've got the dropper, which basically did an XOR cipher key against a constant of 333. Super secure. Reverse, change the underscores to equal, do a base64 decode, and then basically once you get that, then main function goes through and runs it. That's awesome. Oh, what did they do this? They did a Windows VB script payload. This thing just screams that any decent antivirus should catch this. Maybe not on Mac, but I mean, there are some decent ones on Mac. Let's see. Is there any telemetry about what they actually did after they got into the system? I'd be curious about that too. Let's see, on the Mac version, it was ad hoc signed. So it allows attaching debuggers, which was needed for the PE inject capability. Interesting. So this was a very, very simple C2 payload. So they went through all the trouble of getting this up, but then they did like the most basic C2 version in here. They could have just well, I don't know. Depending on how they got this, if it was from social engineering and all they got was the key, then they could have done this a lot more stealthily. So thank God they didn't. You're done. Hey, Romans. Let's see. There was one DLL that was an uncovered component in the entire attack chain. We had to access the Cape sandbox for raw memory dumps to get it. They did a live capture in the hardened memory runner. Novel findings. Let's see. So the analysis produced several findings not present in any published vendor report. So it had some kind of a novel .NET injector, potentially future campaign fingerprinting option there. C2 is exclusively via the argv1, so Mac OS binary had 0 hard-coded IPs or domains. Oh, interesting. So the Mac version had some interesting things to it. The following attacker-controlled NPM accounts are still publishing new package versions. Ruh-roh. Qbot Claw Launcher. That's funny. Dynamic analysis, let's see. Oh, cool. They did C2 infrastructure hunting. So, searched Shodan for servers matching the Axios C2 fingerprint, which was running Express.js on port 8000, had a CORS header here. They also did a J4A fingerprint computed from the PCAP. Oh, that's cool, because that will actually get you probably pretty close. They found a couple of leads on potential ones. They can't confirm it, but they say, hey, we kind of narrowed it down to these particular ones in here. That's pretty cool. That's a nice breakdown. Me gusta. I gusta. Erva was probably either the developer's name or a shorthand. Oh, it wasn't social engineering? That's what Site thought it might have been. And that would make sense, except I'm curious about this. Let's see. We already talked about Cobalt Strike's research lab. Oh, what is this? The widen siren goes off again. We'll be stunned by what the NSA is doing under Section 702. I strongly believe that this matter can and should be declassified, and that Congress needs to debate it openly before Section 702 is reauthorized. In fact, when it is eventually declassified, the American people will be stunned that it took so long for Congress, that Congress has been debating the authority with insufficient information. Ooh. Let me check out what this one is here. We got a couple more stories before we wrap it up tonight. We already talked about kind of like what this is. So last month we wrote about the Wyden siren. So the pattern where Senator Ron Wyden sends cryptic public signals that something terrible is happening behind the classification curtain, can't say what it is, and will eventually be proven right. Every single time. The catalyst then was a two-sentence letter to CIA Director Ratcliffe expressing deep concerns about CIA activities. Well, the siren's going off once again. This time, Wyden took to the Senate floor to deliver a lengthy speech, ostensibly about the since-approved, but with support of many Democrats, nomination of Joshua Rudd as the lead of the NSA. Wyden was protesting that nomination, but in the context, Rudd was unwilling to agree to basic constitutional limitations on NSA surveillance. But what's jumping off the page ahead of Section 702's upcoming reauthorization deadline, what is Section 702? I'll have to go read that. There's another example of a secret law related to Section 702, one that directly affects the privacy rights of Americans. For years, I've asked various administrations to declassify this matter. Thus far, they have all refused, although I'm still waiting for a response from DNI Gabbard. I strongly believe that this matter can and should be declassified and that Congress needs to debate it openly before Section 702 is reauthorized. In fact, when it is eventually declassified, the American people will be stunned that it took so long and that Congress had been debating authority with insufficient information. Let's see. What is Section 702? I was hoping they would explain it in here. Let me see. Let's see if we can find it real quick. Let's see if this explains it. See, I don't even need AI. I've got chat. Let me see here. Section 702 is currently in effect but expires in 2026. Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Services Act, FISA. Oh, that's rife with bullshit. But its statutory authority expires April 19, 2026. Congress reauthorized the program in April 2024 through the Reforming Intelligence and Securing America Act, which gave it a 2-year extension. What happens if this lapses? So if Congress does not apply it, it will sunset, but collection will not stop immediately. The law includes transition provisions that allow any existing court order or directive issued under Section 702 to remain in effect until its stated expiration date. So the FISA court can continue administering previously unauthorized procedures until those orders expire. However, no new certification or directive can be issued once the authority lapses. All right, here we go. So what 702 authorizes? Permits the government to collect foreign intelligence information by targeting non-U.S. persons who are reasonably believed to be located outside the United States. Each target must satisfy 3 requirements. The person is not a U.S. citizen or a lawful permanent resident. The person is assessed to be outside the country, and the person is expected to possess or communicate specific types of foreign intelligence identified by the Attorney General and under the Director of National Intelligence. Every targeted decision must be individually documented and reviewed by an oversight team. Is it though? Is it though? Yeah, this is bulk collection is what this is. Yeah. They're like, hey, this is in theory supposed to work. But yeah. Okay, now I know what we're talking about here. I didn't know this was called Section 702. So the government collects communications under 702 through 2 distinct methods. Downstream collection, previously referred to as PRISM, which Prism's a whole other can of worms. Involves going directly to service providers like email platforms or messaging companies and compelling them to turn over communications to and from targeted selectors. Upstream collection involves copying communications as they travel across the internet's backbone infrastructure. High-speed capacity fiber optic cables operated by telecommunications carriers. Yeah. Oh, that's bad. Yeah, let's kind of hope that dies. All right, what else have we got in here for interesting stories so we can wrap up the night? Let's see. Ooh, what is this? Leveling up secure code reviews with Claude Code. Hold on, what did they do for this one? Oh, this is from our boys over at Spectre Ops. Who wrote this one? Andrew Luke, the guy whose Kubernetes platform, or what is it? His Ludus skill is what we're using in the lab right now. Yeah. Let's see. So after years of manually reviewing source code for vulnerabilities during web assessments and penetration tests, I found modern language models a great boon to the process. They greatly assist in scenarios where you're dropped into an application built with unfamiliar languages, frameworks, or tech stacks. So a tool like Claude Code can surface security hotspots with the breadth and fidelity of pre-language model software characterized tooling like Microsoft's App Inspector could only dream of. So my methodology is to use Claude Code to empower my own secure code review, i.e. understanding how the application works, which is the way I like to do it too. I was like, hey, how is this working? What is this doing? What does this library do? Rather than relying on the assessment for it to looking for it to surface vulnerabilities. Let's see. Let's just jump down to his system prompt. So before rappelling into the depths of the application code, it's beneficial to provide Claude Code with contextual information on the target application and guidance we want in response. This will result in fewer false positives, again, narrowing the search space, as we always talked about. Claude's already participating in CTFs. Apparently, they partnered with universities, which I thought was insane. CTFs might be dead. Oh, yeah. So, Commander, there's been a lot of that going on, and a lot of people are talking about basically our CTFs more or less just going to become like who can come up with the best AI agent. But honestly, automation in CTFs has been around for a long time. That's what a lot of the top CTF teams did, was they had their own internal kind of automation systems that they did with it. Hey, we're just going through some hacker news for tonight. This one I think is a bit too long for it, but I'm going to drop a link to everybody in the chat here. This is from one of the researchers over at Spectre Ops talking about basically how to intelligently approach using Claude Code when you're doing something like a web app assessment. Let's see. Not a lot in the news for this particular week. However, this Ludus MCP actually sounds pretty cool. Oh, so Bad Sector Labs finally released their own MCP. Ooh, nice. Let me see. Let me go look at the documentation for it. Where did they do this? Hold on. It just links to the docs. Come on. Search MCP. There we go. AI coding assistant for the Ludus API. Anything you can do with the CLI will work through the MCP. Nice. So telling it to go snapshot all your VMs. Deploy with VM deploy, network, and DNS write tags. Very cool. So easy to set up, easy to integrate. So good to know. It will accept but only requests to your Ludus server. Use the scoped TLS in here. API storage, skills. Shut up, baby. I know it. Ludus. Yeah. Ludus. Oh, Ludus is, if you're not familiar with this, it is one of my very favorite tools. Ludus is basically like a hacker lab orchestrator. So use it pretty frequently on Saturday and Sunday nights whenever we're doing lab setup and we're working there and testing things out. And you could essentially define your entire lab as code with with Ansible, what's the correct term? I'm trying to think. Ansible roles. That's it. And they'll go through and you can say, hey, blah, blah, apply this particular role, whatever it is. So like, for example, we've got some Debian servers in the lab right now. So I told it, hey, go apply the Kubernetes cluster role to it. And by the way, here's a variable where I could say, go through and configure this one as the cluster master. This one will be the worker node. Really great for Active Directory. So using nothing but, hold on, I think I have it up right now. Do I? Ah, damn it, I closed it. I had it up before the stream. I closed it because I didn't think I was going to need it tonight. But essentially, let's look at the environment guides here. So let's say, for example, you wanted to bone up on your Active Directory certificate services systems. Well, this is essentially a very basic one in here. This is a single VM, but you could go through and add this will just deploy a domain controller and all of the ADCS vulnerable templates into that system. And then once you deploy it, it goes through and clones out the VM, puts it into a range so it's isolated, and then adds all the ADCS configurations to it. So for example, in the lab we've got set up right now, it's got a full SCCM vulnerable system in there with all the juicy misconfigurations we want in there. It's got all the ADCS stuff set up on it, and it's got a Kubernetes cluster in there. So we've been going through and doing some Kubernetes stuff on the weekends, just having some fun with it. Basically trying to build out a lab that we could have Hackbot go through and test against once it gets to that point. Because we've got the Mythic MCP server set up, so we can go connect whatever AI agent we're going to use over to the Mythic MCP server. It can control our agents. It could work on building payloads and interacting with them. So that's going to be a lot of fun. We're still working through it, having some fun with it right now. But like, for example, just by adding this one particular role to it, we get vulnerable templates for escalations 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11, 13, and 15. And the ones that are missing in here are honestly ones that were patched out because there were actual flaws in the ADCS code and not necessarily in the templates themselves. Most of the times, the exploitable systems are because the template is not set up correctly, or some permissions around the ADCS server are not set up correctly. Like you have like extra administrative permissions onto like the certificate authority or anything like that. Or you can relay authentication because there's an exposed web front end on it. So all sorts of things like that. So yeah, I love Ludus. It is amazing. Hold on, which one is escalation 16? I gotta remember. By the way, one of my favorite places to go check this out, if you go look on the CertiPy wiki, he's got a great breakdown of all of the various escalations in there. Ooh. Misconfiguration where the certificate authority itself is globally configured to disable the inclusion of certain OIDs in all certificates. Oh, okay. Nice. Nice. So when the CA has OID, this one, added to its disable extension list, every certificate issued by the CA will lack the SID security extension. Oh, so the SID security extension was something they put in to try and combat some of these in here, but it looks like there's basically a way to disable it. Nice. Nice. Learn something new every day. Thanks, Cypher. What in the .NET am I watching? We'll go through some ADCS stuff on the stream, Commander, because we're gonna go through. We're gonna verify in the lab and make sure it's working right. We're going through a bunch of Kubernetes stuff right now. Then we're gonna go through some SCCM stuff and some ADCS stuff just to make sure everything's kind of working as planned. And then we're gonna go through and we're gonna probably leave those in their default configuration and let something like, I don't know, Claude Code or Codex run through with our MCP server and some other tools and let it go through basically hack that internal little CTF lab that we've built out. Once that's good, then we'll go through and we'll actually start obfuscating the lab range itself, changing the names, making it look like an actual like small, medium-sized business, having some fun with it. Yeah. If you ever want to check it out, just go to ludus.cloud. That's the website. The documentation is really good. Some of the ranges they've got. So they've got the ADCS lab. here's an example of a very basic Active Directory lab, right? Imagine going through and setting this sucker up by yourself. Then you have to like go set up a router. You got to go set up 3 different machines here, 2 windows, and this. You got to set up your Active Directory. You got to join it. All of that work is compressed, and I do recommend doing that. Like if you've never done that, it's very worth it to go through the process and do it by hand. However, once you get to a certain point, you're kind of sick of doing it. You can deploy this entire lab, including the restrictions on like what ports can talk where. You can deploy this as a single YAML file, right? Here's the definitions for the virtual machines. You tell it, hey, what template we're using, which is like the base version of the operating system, what the name's going to be, how much RAM and CPUs to give it, everything. And then you can go through and say, hey, by the way, here's the network restrictions between those different VLANs. Oh yeah, you can do VLANs in here. Each range has its own /16 network. So for example, this one is on VLAN 10, this one's on VLAN 10. That's kind of like the internal Windows VLAN. And then you can have this Kali box deployed on VLAN 99. So it's like your simulated internet, right? And then you can go through and you can define where all those kind of happen. What's the source and destination VLAN, what protocols, everything like that. You could block them, accept them, everything like that. Default, reject. It's a really cool setup. You can also go deploy Game of Active Directory in there. That one works out really well. So lots of very fun stuff in here. All right, let's see. What else we got to wrap up tonight? Let's look at one more real quick. We already kind of talked about Red Run previously. What is this? InfraGuard, command and control replication proxy and manager, which protects your red team infrastructure against threat attribution. Ooh, interesting. Let's see what else we've got in here. Let's look at this one, the Trust Me buff. Impersonate trusted installer via DISM API trigger and thread impersonation. Nice. So this will elevate a Cobalt Strike beacon from an admin context to NT Authority system with the trusted service installer SID in the token group. Nice. So most public approaches to becoming trusted installer. Oh, dang it, the ads are starting. Man, I tried to finish them off before we did that. Let's see. This works by interacting with SCM in a well-understood by defenders and commonly logged. So Trust Me takes a different approach. It loads the DISM API and runs a health check. DISM API internally causes the trusted installer to start as a side effect of the service stack operation. The DISM session is held open so trusted installer doesn't exit before we can use it. It walks the process listing using NT get next process instead of open process, and we enumerate the process handles indirectly through that get next process and match it by image name. Impersonate the trusted installer thread using impersonate thread rather than opening them by their thread ID. So once you find a usable thread, impersonate it and register the token via the beacon use, which basically means they're stealing the more or less the process identification material. And then finally, it cleans it up by closing the DISM session. Oh, very cool. Nice. Always good to find a way, even if you're running as... So notice here, though, this says it takes it from an admin context. So you have to already be an admin. So if you're running as like the regular low-privilege user, this isn't going to help you. But there are times when you need to go from like having admin on the machine to system. And this will be where you would use that. So you have all these different authorization levels you want to jump through. And they have different parameters on what you're going to be working through. Yeah, this one's actually pretty cool. I like that. All right. Unfortunately, that is where we need to wrap up the stream. And nobody's on InfoSec streams, not even us. It's very hush-hush, very quiet. Let's go find us somebody to go raid over to. By the way, hold on. Let me double check something real quick. Hang on. I'm gonna wait. Let me wait for the ads to finish real quick before I make this announcement. Oh, what's this video that Senior Potion has sent me? Let me see. If you ran the one-click Windows debootloader called WinSucks, that's not suspicious. Oh no. Oh no. Okay, I'll have to go check that one out. I want to see what happened with it. All right, cool. So real quick, no stream this Saturday. I've got important church stuff to go do because Easter is coming up. I will catch you all on on Sunday. Because of that, unfortunately, the church service Saturday evening goes really late, and so I won't be back in time for that. So, and I do have to be there because one of my good friends is being baptized, so I cannot miss that. So I was gonna just go Sunday morning. That kind of threw the plans out the window. He told me this morning. So I will catch you all on Sunday night, and we'll go through and we'll do some more lab fun. We'll hack a bit more on Kubernetes. So, do I know Luke Smith? I might. The name sounds familiar, but also that's kind of a common name. So yeah, so we will keep up. We'll pick back up with doing some of the hacks on Kubernetes. Oh, I did fix the issue with the CRI protocol not letting us go spawn containers. I fixed that. I figured out what it was after we changed the CRI configuration to what should be the normal vulnerable version. I had to go restart the containers themselves. I think I know why. I think it was an inode mapping issue on how it shared those, but that's all right. Let's see. By the way, over on the Twitch side, if you have any raid suggestions, feel free to shout them out. Let's see who's on right now. Oh, Cyber Doctor's on? Okay, yeah, we can go right over to him. He wasn't showing up on there, and I'm surprised because I'm pretty sure I've got him followed. Let's see, your Cyber Doctor. He is on, okay. He was working on some fun, like, learning AI stuff. Oh, it looks like he's actually working on his live stream, too. Okay, yeah, we'll go right over to him real quick. Basically, it was a debootloader being promoted by YouTubers was spoofing and killing all security things on Windows by impersonating and replicating the trusted installer files. Oh, rip. Nice. Now, this one in particular, the BOF we just talked about, Potion, though, was talking about impersonating the trusted installer service. So, slightly different approach, but that was talking about actually like basically replacing the trusted files. This one was actually spawning that service, pausing it, walking the threads, and then finding I forget what it's called, like the thread token, and then stealing that and then basically injecting it into your own process, so then you could run things as the permissions of that process, basically letting you run as NT authority system. Yeah, that BOF was for a token escalation, going from admin to system in there. It sounds like what you're talking about is they actually went through and did a sleight of hand and replaced the trusted installer binaries in there. All right, let me get the raid started. We're going to go right over to CyberDoc because he's doing some fun stuff. And I think he just came on too. Oh yeah, he just came online. Perfect. Okay. Yeah, so the BOF was for going from admin to system. And then that one sounds like probably people were running it. They probably ran it with elevated admin credentials anyway. All right, guys, I got to wrap up because I got a busy work day tomorrow. Where's the button? There it is. I will catch you all on Sunday night. I hope you all have a fantastic Easter. Spend that extra time with your friends and family. Remember, Crushing It mode is still in full effect. It is going to go through the rest of the week. We do not go weekly into the week. We do not finish the week weekly. We finish the week strongly. Finish him. And I will catch you all on Sunday. I want y'all to, when you get into CyberDoc stream, do me a favor, drop a bunch of happy hackers and hack the planets. And I will catch you all, yeah, already said Sunday. What am I forgetting? Oh, I forgot the most important thing. I love you. Peace.
Hello, IT. Have you tried turning it off and on again?
You just had to squeak that in there at the last minute, didn't you, 57? Take care, everyone.